Come alive on NBC Sports. With a blend of tradition and the latest in television technology, we're building tomorrow's memories today, right here on NBC.
Today on NBC, it'll be the Mets and the Phillies from Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia. The Mets picked by many as the team to beat in the National League East. Or some of you will see the Toronto Blue Jays and the World Series champion Kansas City Royals, led by all-star George Brett. And then from beautiful Hilton Head, Chris Everett Lloyd is among the semifinalists in the Family Circle Cup. But first, Major League Baseball, an inside look at baseball, and a preview of today's game of the week. Brought to you by Honda Power Equipment, lawnmowers, lawn tractors, and portable generators made to last. And by Beneficial, when you talk to the manager, you're talking to the boss.
And a good afternoon, everyone. I'm Marv Albert in New York, and welcome to the start of NBC's coverage of the 1986 baseball season. And we are opening with a couple of attractive games. Some of you will see the Mets and the Phillies in Philadelphia. Steve Carlton going against Sid Fernandez, and these are two clubs that don't like each other. They have already had a couple of beanball incidents in spring training. And some of you will see the champion Kansas City Royals go against the Toronto Blue Jays in Kansas City. Dennis Leonard, a three-time 20-game winner, going for the Royals. A knee injury has sidelined him for nearly 3 years, so he is on the comeback trail. Dennis has had 4 operations the last 3 years. He says he has a 35-year-old head, a 30-year-old arm, and an 85-year-old knee. We'll be switching to the ballparks in just a bit for the voices of Vin Scully, Joe Garagiola, Bob Costas, and Tony Kubek. Bob, of course, coming off his successful co-hosting stint last night of Friday Night Videos. Next week, Bob will be touring with Frankie Avalon, Bobby Rydell, and Fabian. All right, this 1986 baseball season got underway last Monday in presidential fashion. The traditional first pitch, a wild throw in Baltimore. But the second right on target, it was a strike. And then, with the pressure off, President Reagan settled down in the dugout to take in a few innings, sign a few baseballs. Super Bowl champion Chicago Bears coach Mike Ditka did his Jim McMahon impersonation, ruled his first pitch an incompletion. As with other opening days, there were some highs. And some lows. In Detroit last Monday, Red Sox outfielder Dwight Evans hit the very first pitch of the season for a home run. Now, this may be the first time this was ever accomplished. They are still checking out the record books. Detroit Tigers outfielder Kirk Gibson answered Evans' home run with 2 of his own. Gibson opening with 2 homers, 5 RBIs on opening day. And another first. Will Clark of the San Francisco Giants in his first Major League at-bat hit a Major League home run. Another rookie, Texas Ranger pitcher Jose Guzman chalked up a win on opening day at his first Major League outing. First rookie pitcher to do it since Fernando. In St. Louis, Ozzie Smith banned for the backflip. So his 4-year-old son did the honors. Opening day excitement saw the Pittsburgh Parrot lose his head. But Montreal infielder Tim Wallach took the whole thing lying down. Perhaps the most bizarre first of the week, Yankee pitcher Ed Whitson blasted by George Brett. And once again, hearing it from Yankee fans, Whitson coming off last season's bad start, and his hotel brawl with Billy Martin has been unmercifully booed by Yankee fans. So manager Lou Piniella said from now on, Whitson will only pitch on the road, and that appears to be a baseball first. Well, that is one side of this new baseball season, but Kirk Gibson, who is off to such an excellent start, may be the focus of a legal battle in the months ahead. Now, the Players Association has filed a grievance charging that the owners got together and decided not to bid on Gibson and this year's crop of free agents. If the charges are true, this is called collusion, and it's against the law. Donald Fear, head of the Players Union, says you don't need a smoking gun to see what's going on here. There's no doubt in my mind there was collusion regarding Kirk Gibson. And Gibson is just the tip of the iceberg. Players declared free agency, and only lesser players change ball clubs. Apparently, no rival team seriously bid on Gibson or Carlton Fisk or relief man Donnie Moore. Now, Bud Selig, the president of the Milwaukee Brewers, denied the charges. He said, "No one talked about Gibson at the owners' meeting. No one will tell me how to cut my payroll." He said the party's over. Yankee owner George Steinbrenner, according to the New York Daily News, said that baseball commissioner Peter Ueberroth got us together on numerous occasions, always with 4 lawyers in the room to guard against anything that could be construed as collusion. And finally, Kirk Gibson's agent, Doug Baldwin, told NBC Sports that the Atlanta Braves offered Gibson a 5-year contract, but the agent said that 2 days after the commissioner visited owner Ted Turner, they reduced the offer to 3 years, and a week later, they were not interested at all. The Braves would not comment on this. Well, the baseball commissioner, Peter Ueberroth, is in our studio. We'll hear his views on this matter when we return after these messages. Back in New York, Marv Albert with the commissioner of baseball, Peter Ueberroth, and I understand that you were taking the action yesterday in Cleveland on a very brisk day. Is it true that you did not wear the top coat?
Oh, I wore the top coat and the sweater and the gloves, and but I enjoyed the ball game.
All right, what is your reaction to the charges of collusion concerning the lack of movement of free agents?
Well, if you're talking about Kirk Gibson, if he continues to play anywhere like he's playing now, I mean, he's worth all of the league. I mean, you can't pay him enough. I watched him in Cleveland just be outstanding. But I don't see collusion. Salaries in baseball, unknown fact until this moment we speak about it, this year from last year will go up about $30 million. So the spiral is still continuing of increased amounts of money being paid to players. Free agency, I think, is going to continue as it has in the past. What happened last year is the owners opened the books. There was not a lot of talented players other than Kirk Gibson. And also, there was the first time in baseball in a long time that people the year before had not had good success with free agents. You know, the players that went into free agency the year before did not perform very well. Those factors made it really kind of hold free agency down, but it's alive and well.
But isn't it curious, you take a guy like Gibson with his credentials, and he's on the rise, that there was no one interested in even talking money with Gibson's agent? I could understand the cases of a Juan Benitez or Rod Carew because of his age, and that could backfire. But how could it be that no one was interested in Gibson?
Basically, there's usually only about a half a dozen clubs that are interested in free agency. There's 10, 15 clubs that just never get in the marketplace. And those that did had just opened their books and embarrassed themselves and, threw all that red ink forward for the world to see and said, look at how terribly we're doing. And they just took a big, deep breath of air and said, we're not going to be in that market.
So you're saying it is possible that no other club, even with the needs that they would want to go for that kind of money for Kirk Gibson?
Not last year. Also, there's a guy, Kirk Gibson, who is beloved in his community, grew up there, went to college there, was a superstar in other sports, and they think twice yanking that kind of individual. You think twice, George Brett in Kansas City. He is Kansas City. I mean, he's really the whole team. I think there's going to be a lot of that in the future. If somebody is established in a community, they'll think it over before they yank them to another community.
Well, I'm told Atlanta owner Ted Turner was interested in Gibson, and then there was a meeting in which you were involved with the Braves, and suddenly there was no interest. Is that accurate?
Not accurate at all. I was down there for the Martin Luther King Foundation meeting, the Holiday Commission, and there's just no truth in that at all. Anybody ought to know, and you in television business ought to know very clearly, nobody tells Ted Turner what to do.
All right, to another subject. Now,
sure.
You have been saying that baseball is drug-free. I know you modified that. At first you said you feel it's drug-free.
It is really drug-free, and the fans are going to learn that. The parents, and they can take their kids to the ballpark and see really a drug-free sport. Or there may be an incident now and then, very small. But the reason the drug problem is over in baseball is the players have dignity. And the players have said enough is enough. And they're tired of talking about the problem, hearing about it, and they're taking several steps. And, very few had the problem to start with. So it's over with. And talk is cheap. Marv, you're going to see it. As the season progresses, this sport's not going to have a drug problem.
That appears to be a sweeping statement. I know you're taking measures to try and prevent it, but how can you just declare that the sport now is drug-free? I mean, there are youngsters coming into the game all the time. There are possibilities of other things occurring.
The youngsters all have been tested in the minor leagues on a regular basis, and we know the record's there. We know the minor leagues are virtually drug-free, and so all the youngsters graduating, but mainly the players have dignity, and they've said enough is enough. They know the problems, they've learned the lesson, and after all, we both can make projections, but you have me on record. You watch. This season will be virtually drug-free.
Commissioner, what is your reaction to the feeling by some that you are actually positioning yourself to run for political office in California?
Well, the day that I could run, I could legally become a candidate, has now passed. I can't become a candidate till 1992, so that rumor ought to be a pop fly that somebody catches and we forget about.
You'll still be a young man in 1992.
Well, listen, let's see, I'll be in the mid to late 50s. Who knows what happens then? You know, I'll have to, the next election I face is in 3 or 4 years to see if they elect me as commissioner again.
So you are saying you will still be commissioner of baseball a year from now?
Till I get thrown out. And I said that the baseball players should have a voice, so should the umpires, and we'll see. It's a great sport, off to a good year.
Okay, Commissioner, thank you for coming by.
My pleasure.
All right, Peter Ueberroth, baseball commissioner, and we'll be back right after we pause for these words.
Indianapolis has a rich heritage of baseball, and one night in 1973 we were out at the baseball park, Bush Memorial Stadium, and it was a Little League night, and thousands of parents and their little leaguers were there. And in the middle of the third inning, we realized there was some kind of a ruckus, some kind of a commotion going on in the Indians' dugout, and we looked over, and Pedro Borbon was just slapping the hell out of a teammate, and he was on top of him, and he was doing this to him, just both hands by the throat, just choking the life out of this guy. And each one of those little leaguers, as they left, they all said together, this was the best night ever.
Indeed, the walls may be closing in on that man. There are 5 other games going this afternoon, and we'll be keeping you posted with updates during the course of the day right here on NBC Sports. Coming up, some of you will be seeing the Mets and the Phillies from Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia, or the Royals and the Blue Jays from Kansas City. Thank you for tuning in. This is Marv Albert. Let's head to the ballpark.
Today's game of the week pits the New York Mets versus the Philadelphia Phillies, and Cannon against Cannon. For the Mets, it'll be Gary Carter. He homered last night. He's hit more home runs at Veterans Stadium than any other visiting player. He also picked up 5 RBIs to beat the Phils. He'll go up against Mike Schmidt, the veteran who has hit 459 home runs in his brilliant 15-year career. So it should be muscle against muscle, Carter against Schmidt. But there's more to it than that, because there will also be the contrast on the mound. The 23-year-old Hawaiian, Sid Fernandez, who could very well be the standout young pitcher in the league, against 41-year-old Steve Carlton. He's won 314, but the question is he on his way out? They'll all go head-to-head today at Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia. Today's game of the week pits the New York Mets versus the Philadelphia Phillies, and Cannon against Cannon. For the Mets, it'll be Gary Carter. He homered last night. He's hit more home runs at Veterans Stadium than any other visiting player. He also picked up 5 RBIs to beat the Phils. He'll go up against Mike Schmidt, the veteran who has hit 459 home runs in his brilliant 15-year career. So it should be muscle against muscle, Carter against Schmidt. But there's more to it than that, because there will also be the contrast on the mound. The 23-year-old Hawaiian, Sid Fernandez, who could very well be the standout young pitcher in the league, against 41-year-old Steve Carlton. He's won 314, but the question is he on his way out? They'll all go head-to-head today at Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia.
The National Broadcasting Company, now in its 6th decade of bringing you baseball's memories. milestones. Baseball's majesty. And baseball's magical moments. NBC Sports proudly presents the Major League Baseball Game of the Week. Today, from Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia, it's the New York Mets versus the Philadelphia Phillies. The Game of the Week is brought to you by Miller Lite. For great taste, there is only one light beer. By Ford and your local Ford dealer. Have you driven a Ford lately? By Armor All. It's the finishing touch every time you wash your car. And by Hyplenex Lawn and Garden Products. Hyplenex. Spread the word.
From Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia, with temperatures 60 degrees, it's the second game of the series between the Philadelphia Phillies and the New York Mets. Hi, everybody. I'm Vin Scully, along with Joe Garagiola, and welcome to our first NBC Game of the Week. And it seems like we just finished calling Jack Clark's home run in Dodger Stadium. The World Series is history, and there are all kinds of questions dangling in the air here at the outset.
There are. You stop to look at both leagues. I think about the Cardinals, for example. Can they stop Vince Coleman? I saw a young player like Will Clark of San Francisco in the Cactus League look like he's ready for the Hall of Fame. Will he be that good? We have a big question right here today, Vin. Steve Carlton. You hear so many things. Is he going to be able to come back?
Yes, there are all kinds of Floridian remarks about Carlton's performance, about how great he looked. And then, of course, in Cincinnati, he had a very poor outing.
Well, you wonder, because Jack Clark, you mentioned him a moment ago, I saw a quote where he said it's the best he has seen Carlton throw in the last 2 or 3 years. His curveball was explosive, and I'm saying to myself, if it is, the Phillies are going to win this thing, and if it's not, Jack Clark is just setting them up.
You know, I was wondering about that. I think ball players lie. I think hitters will say what a great curveball this guy has, and then he'll go up to the plate looking for the curve.
Looking for it, because they'll say, well, first of all, you don't want to get a guy like Carlton mad at you. They really don't lie. They bend the truth.
Yeah. Well, it'll be an interesting contrast between Steve Carlton, 4-time Cy Young Award winner who's won over 300 games, against a left-hander who could very well be one of the more outstanding pitchers in the National League by the name of Sid Fernandez. We'll get to the starting lineup, and we'll have all the pregame stats and stories all coming up right after this.
Started out as a party, but turned into a case of the missing case.
Groovy shindig.
Incredible feat.
Thank you.
Hey, who turned out the lights? It's okay, doll.
No, it's not. There's a case of Miller Lite missing.
Who took it?
It had to be somebody in this room.
Rodney!
Hey, guys, take it easy, will you?
Why'd you do it, Rodney? 'Cause light tastes great?
Yeah. Cause light's less filthy.
Yeah!
I tell you, I didn't do it. Well, I'm not even Rodney.
You! I thought it was a costume party. Great mask, huh?
There's no mystery that there's only one light beer, Miller Lite.
But if he didn't do it, who did?
Hi, everybody. This is Gary Carter, and welcome to NBC's first game of the week. Leading off will be Lenny Dykstra playing center field. Batting second will be the newly acquired Tim Tuffle. Batting third, our Gold Glover, Keith Hernandez. Yours truly will be back behind the plate today. Batting fifth will be Darryl Strawberry. Batting sixth and playing left field will be George Foster. Batting seventh will be playing Ray Knight at third base. Shortstop will be Rafael Santana batting eighth, and El Cid on the mound today batting ninth. Pull up a chair and have a great day.
All right, Gary, pull up a couple of chairs. Pull up a couch. Put the wagons in a circle. But let's get going. Game one on our NBC Game of the Week. Len Dykstra, Tim Tuffle, and then Keith Hernandez. And the pitch, ball one. Dykstra last year in the games where he led off, the Mets were 21 games above 500. Much better even than when Mookie Wilson was in there.
And that's the way he usually let off, by beating out a bunt. They really have to look for the bunt from this fellow.
Only 23 years old, out of Garden Grove, California. That's in there. The word was the San Diego Padres were after him all winter. They wanted some speed and a center fielder. They couldn't get him, so they wound up getting the Pirates' Marvell Wynn. The bunt fouled away. So Dykstra, Tuffle, and Hernandez. And, of course, the big story is right out there center stage. Mr. Steve Carlton at 41. You know, his first victory ever, and he's won 314. First ever was 20 years ago in August. He beat the Mets. Little ground ball wide of first, fielded by Schmitty, and there's nobody there. That's called a tentative way to cover first. Carlton didn't get over there, and there's no way Samuel could get there. Take another look.
It's the old Horatio Alger, but on the ground ball. Schmitty thinks that Carlton's going to be there, and he just isn't. He hardly looked. And it'll be a base hit, I'm sure.
That's how they're going to rule it. But Carlton should have made the play.
He wasn't there fast enough.
No.
I think that Dykstra would have beaten him over to the bag. Carlton has a good move, so it'll be tough for Dykstra to run.
The batter now is Tim Tuffle, a second baseman. And with the runner going, the throw is into center field. A shabby way to get it underway. And over to third goes Dykstra.
Reason I said that is because they were talking about it before the game on Carlton's move, but the important thing was the inaccuracy of Russell. Now, they talked about his quick release, which he does have, but is he accurate? That was the question. Obviously, he was not on that one, and it's just the same as a triple. The little bunt, Vin, ends up a triple.
So with a runner at third and nobody out, Tuffle up there. And the count 0-1. And hit foul down the left field line, out of play. Carlton has always needed a lot of work on his move, not to make it any better, but to make it more legitimate. A few years ago, he committed more balks in a single season than any pitcher in Major League history. He balked 11 times, and there are players who say he'll balk almost all the time. Good ground ball. That picks up the run. So just like that, the Mets lead 1-0. Boy, you talk about getting the maximum out of the minimum. There's a ground ball by Dykstra. Turns out to be a hit, a stolen base, an error, and a ground ball out. And the next thing you know, it's a run on the board. So Tuffle picks up the RBI, and Keith Hernandez will be the hitter. And the Mets sit in the top of 1-0 lead.
It'll be interesting to watch Carlton work because they've been sitting on his breaking ball. His fastball last year was not strong enough to get by if you were looking for the breaking ball.
Hernandez last year hit only one home run in 338 at-bats in the Eastern Division. You know who it was against? You got it. Philadelphia. Fouled away.
Claude Osteen, talking about Carlton, Osteen, the pitching coach, says that we've got to almost convince him that he has to pitch backwards. That is, with 2 strikes, throw that fastball. It is good enough now. They clocked Carlton at 86. It's good enough now to get him out, but he's relied so much on the breaking ball, he's sit on it.
Here's a 2-1 pitch, hit the other way, foul to even it up, 2 balls and 2 strikes. Yeah, I know Osteen talks about last year when Carlton was so tentative, he would show the fastball. And this year, he's still showing it instead of using it. Fouled off, 2-2.
Now, against Hernandez, and I asked Keith before the game, I said, what's in your mind? He said, sit on the breaking ball. He has hardly thrown him a breaking ball. It's all been hard stuff. Now, with 2 strikes, it's a whole different story, but he's still relying, Carlton is, on hard stuff.
And he missed inside under the elbows. So he's gone 3-2, and on deck is Gary Carter. Gary with 5 RBIs and a home run last night. High fly ball into left center field. Milt Thompson and Gary Reedus, and it will be Reedus. 2 down, 1-0 in favor of the Mets, and Gary Carter coming up. Carter is one of those ball players, and there aren't very many. Those are his numbers from last year. But he has worn out Carlton going head-to-head over the years. That's as much a tribute to him as anything.
He's not afraid to jump on that first pitch.
interesting about Carter, he hit higher with men on base than bases empty in each of the last 8 years. He's the kind of a hitter who really not only hits in the clutch, but he takes advantage of a pitcher out of the stretch. 1-1.
You might make note of how fast Carlton's pitching. Once he gets to a rhythm, he hates to get taken out of that rhythm. He gets that ball, he wants to fire. He doesn't fool around.
On the outside corner. Good pitch. 1-2 the count to Gary Carter. Fastball, slider, curveball, and a screwball, and he uses that screwball a lot now. Just missed.
Throwing a lot more fastballs than I really thought he would throw as we look at Davy Johnson.
Davy, of course, knows all about Philadelphia. He was here in the past. 2-2. Ground ball wide of third. A late start by Rick Shue, but he picked it off and then throws it above Mike Schmidt, who does a toe dance to bring it down. A fine play. A run on a hit, an error, nobody left, and it is 1-0 Mets at the end of a half an inning. Here's the way Philadelphia stacks up for today. Gary Redus opens up in left field, and Milt Thompson will be the center fielder looking for his first hit of the year. Juan Samuel at second, and Mike Schmidt moved over to first. Glenn Wilson will be in right field, and the catcher will be John Russell. At third base, Rick Shue, the shortstop, the switch-hitting Steve Jeltz, and the pitcher Steve Carlton. Here's another play. Shue getting a chance to play, throws it very high, and watch Mike up the ladder. Comes down. He's having a lot of trouble with his hamstring. He has it every April, but he was able to stretch and go up and get it.
It'll be Ray Knight at third base, Santana, and what can you say about that young man's glove? Tremendous fielder. Tufel at second base. Hernandez, best first baseman in the league. Carter's behind the plate. The outfield is Foster, Dykstra, and Strawberry.
You know, there is some bad feeling, they tell me, between the two ball clubs as you look at Fernandez's numbers. And it goes back to an exhibition game in 1984. Joe LaFay crashing into catcher John Gibbons. Then this year, on March the 17th, Roger McDowell, pitching in relief, had to count 0-2 on shortstop Tom Foley. And Foley was hit by the pitch, suffered a broken hand, and is out. The Phils evidently felt that McDowell was throwing at Foley. So the next day, Len Dykstra was hit twice by members of the Phillies bullpen, Dave Rucker and Don Carmen, and they're not very happy with each other at all. I was only surprised that on St. Patrick's Day, McDowell would possibly throw at Foley. 1-1 to count. This is an interesting kid. Sid Fernandez came out of the Dodger organization and could very well be the winningest and least known pitcher in the National League this year. Fly ball to center. Dykstra has to hurry, and he handles it one away. Dykstra gives you quite a glove out there. He made only one error last year for the New York Mets, so he'll do the job defensively, that's for sure.
Fernandez's fastball is a good one in the low 90s, high 80s, and his curveball is so much slower. You'll see a lot of guys way out in front, although Reed's timed that one pretty well.
Here's Milt Thompson, who is looking for a first hit, 0 for 11. That's tough with you with a new ball club. The thing about Sid Fernandez, and I remember when he was a kid in the Dodger organization, and he was always a strikeout pitcher, but he was also always very wild. And I used to sit upstairs, as we are today, and I had the feeling this kid is pitching uphill. And look at his numbers from last year. So he straightened out, and I asked Mel Stottlemyre about it. See you later, Milt Thompson. And Mel said, you're right, he was pitching uphill in the sense that he was dropping his left elbow, and it seemed like he was pushing the ball up to the hitter. So the first thing Stottlemyre does is to teach him to get that elbow higher, and now he's starting to set the league on its ear. Look out for him. He could be the biggest noise in the league this year.
And they also feel he might have been rushed by the Dodgers.
Yeah, maybe so.
Brought up and just wasn't quite ready.
Here's a fella they think is a star who might become a superstar. That's how close Samuel is, they feel. He's already off to a 300 year. He has a double and an RBI, but they feel he's going to be outstanding. One thing he has to do is cut down on his strikeouts. Last year, he wound up tied with Dale Murphy with 141 strikeouts. And 2 years ago, he struck out more times than any rookie in history. Still don't worry about him. They still feel he's going to be a superstar. One thing he has done, those are the strikeout notes, he has cut down his errors. He went from 33 errors to 15. So if he can do anything like that with the bat, then he will be a superstar. 1-2, the count to Juan Samuel. Boy, that thing sailed, huh?
Well, you can see Fernandez is tough to pick up. For one thing, he almost stops in the middle of his delivery and almost slings the ball at you. There's a little bit of a hesitation, and if you're not careful, you'll be swinging at his elbow.
And the elbow seems to be the key. The 2-2 fastball, foul back. The Phillies are convinced, I'm sure, that he's as much of a threat when you're the hitter as Dwight Gooden. And to point it up, in 27 innings against Philadelphia batters last year, look at this. He struck out 36 hitters in 27 innings. I mean, that's bigger than the room. 2-2. The Juan Samuel, 1-0 Mets. We're just getting started. We're in the first inning. High pop fly into shallow center. Dykstra coming in. And that's that. The Phillies go quietly in the first inning. At the end of an inning, the Mets capitalizing on a squibber lead, 1-0.
Who took the case of Miller Lite? Well, everyone had a motive.
Because light tastes great?
Yeah.
Or because light's less filling?
I know who did it, and that's your first clue.
It's no mystery that there's only one light beer, Miller Lite.
This is Marv Albert in New York. In Kansas City, Dennis Leonard pitching for the first time in 3 years, making it back from a knee injury, retired the Blue Jays in order in the first inning. Encouraging start for the comebacking Dennis Leonard. Let's get back to Vin and Joe.
Okay, Marv, that's encouraging for Dennis Leonard, but at the same time, there was a heavy sentence in there for Pedro Guerrero. Said Dennis Leonard recovering from an injury suffered 3 years ago and is finally trying to make it back. Wow.
That was tough on Pedro and the Dodgers.
Might change the whole complexion, certainly, of the National League West. But here's a fellow who can change the complexion of a ball game as quickly as anybody. Darryl Strawberry, career high in home runs, 29. I don't know. How many times do you think he might walk with Foster hitting back of him this year? 150, 200, 300?
He's got a good chance. He's got a good chance.
I would think so, too. 1 ball, 1 strike. Ball 2.
Strawberry's in that category. Don't let... Every club has one guy. Don't let this guy beat you. And Strawberry is one of those fellas.
Well, Steve behind him now, 3-1.
You may note that Russell, when he gives that target to Carlton, he'll move. He likes to split that target.
Let him swing 3-1. It goes by Bill Robinson and down the line. And the count 3-2. If you joined us a little late, Len Dykstra squibbed one up along first, Carlton late covering. It was a base hit. He stole second to third on the overthrow by John Russell, and Tuffle picked him up with a ground ball. Did he swing? He swung, and down goes Strawberry.
Really set him up for that breaking ball as he threw the hard fastball 3-1, and then 3-2 came back with the breaking ball. Here's a good look at the concentration of the left-hander.
I guess this is a good footnote to a Carlton strikeout. You know, he's lost 10 more games to the Mets in his career than to any other team, and maybe the pattern was set way back in September of 1969. Steve became the first man ever to get 19 strikeouts in a 9-inning game, and the Mets beat him anyway, 4-2, on home runs by Ron Swoboda.
I was going to say, Swoboda hit those home runs. Who now is a sportscaster in Phoenix.
Well, here's George Foster. Foster, and there's no other way to put it, had a dreadful year, especially in late inning pressure situations. In other words, a late inning pressure as he blows him away. Let's say 7th inning or later, score tied or you're behind 1, 2, or 3 runs. You know what he hit in those spots? 132.
That is the zip code for where? He didn't hit the zip code of New York.
Nowhere. That's a heavy load. 2 down, and here's Ray Knight.
Make a note now, that was a fastball. Carlton is really trying to turn his own ship around by going to his fastball and just showing him the curveball.
1-0 the count. 2 down, top of the second, 1-0 in favor of the Mets. Knight will be followed by the shortstop, Rafael Santana. In there.
I tell you, all good breaking ball pitchers had a fastball that you must respect. And when he had that good fastball, it made his breaking ball obviously a little more awesome.
1-1. You know, you saw Ray Knight's numbers last year. How about what happened to him last year? He had a kidney stone, vertigo, torn rib cartilage, bone chips in his elbow, shoulder separation, pulled groin muscle, pulled left quadricep. Otherwise, he was fine.
Sounds like an epidemic.
Terrific. 3-1 to Ray.
This will be an interesting pitch now. 3-1, he's behind the hitter. Usually you throw something besides the fastball. 3-1, 2-0. If I were Ray Knight, I'd be looking for that fastball.
And Osteen was saying, I hope lefty will get some outs with the fastball. So let's see. There it is, and it's out all right. Going back is Reedus, and it's gone. Home run, Ray Knight.
He was sitting on that one. You can bet me, and that's what most hitters would have done. A curveball, and you say to yourself, well, they want me to try the fastball. I tried it and got burned.
Now I wonder what effect that will have on Steve and his confidence in that fastball.
Exactly. You're seeing a change of moods right here, and it's one of those little subtle things in the game you never see. He's got to battle himself now because he challenged the hitter with the fastball, and Knight was waiting for it, and he really ripped it. In Cincinnati, he got beat, but it was breaking balls he hung, is what they said. This was not a breaking ball that hung. This was a fastball that left in a hurry.
So the Mets are leading 2-0. Here is Santana, the shortstop, for a strike. 0-1. The Mets trying to continue the habit of winning on the road. They were tied with the Cardinals and the Dodgers for the winningest road club in the National League. They won 47 games away from home. And, of course, Ray Knight and Keith Hernandez talking about how sweet it is to hit one out against Carlton.
Now, with 2 strikes, you wonder, what is he going to do here? Show him the curveball, come back with the fastball, or go get him? I mean, these are things that you sit on the bench and you wonder if he would do the same thing to you.
Well, one thing, in 2 years, he's only hit 2 home runs. Ground ball to Jeltz. That takes care of him. So it wasn't quite the same situation. 1 run, 1 hit. Nobody left. 2-0 Mets. John Felsky, who is a little bit pleased at what he's seen, even though they lost last night. He was talking about the fact that his club did come back. They were down 6-1, wound up losing 9-7, but he liked that quality in them.
He's got better tools this year than he had last year. Better outfield defense, better bullpen.
Here's Mike Schmidt. He'd be followed by Glenn Wilson and then John Russell. There was some concern about Mike Schmidt. He did not hit a home run in spring training this year. Of course, that's the first time he failed to hit a home run in spring training in almost 9 years. Of course, the last time it happened, all he did was hit 38 home runs during the regular season, and look where he is on the list.
Now, you talk about a guy being able to wait for a pitch. He knows that Fernandez's fastball is his best pitch. Fernandez is going to challenge him, and will Schmidt be ready for it? But he'll be sitting on that fastball.
Off speed, way outside. Ball 1, 1-0. Schmidt trying to spark plug last year's 5th place Phils, and drives one to deep right center field. Going back for it is Strawberry and makes the play easily.
Ben, I keep hearing about certain guys being good breaking ball hitters, but I tell you, it's almost redundant to say a guy's sitting on a fastball. I guarantee if you said, hey, you can write Santa Claus for a gift, what would you want, fastball or curveball?
I know what I'd want.
You doggone right.
Where's Glenn Wilson? Interestingly enough, Mike Schmidt was the big gun here in Philadelphia for 6 straight years until last year, when Wilson led the club with 102 RBIs. Of course, he's a tough player to pin down for a lot of reasons because his categories are so up and down. For instance, He was among the league leaders in doubles, RBIs, and assists, but he was also among the league leaders in errors, strikeouts, and grounding into double plays. So he gave you all kinds. He gave you a full afternoon. Ball 3 to Glenn. When you think about it, 2 of Detroit's first-round draft choices are here in uniform. Glenn Wilson with the Phils, Howard Johnson with the Mets. And he walked him on 4. Last year, Fernandez high in walks in a game, 6. His high in strikeouts, are you ready? 13, and he did that twice. He also had 2 games where he struck out 11. He had a one-hitter for 6 innings against the Phillies last year. Von Hayes had a base hit in the 4th inning of that game. And then they took Fernandez out in the last 3, finished off nicely by Roger McDowell. Here now is John Russell. Off speed for a strike. You notice Russell has an orthodox stance. By that I mean he's holding that bat straight up. He used to rest it on his shoulder. That's the biggest single change he's made from last year to this. They think he might be the next Luzinski here. Popped that off-speed pitch up. Out for it is Tuffle. In is Strawberry. Tuffle. That's a heavy load, isn't it? You know, they say here's the next Luzinski, the next Mantle, the next. Wow.
I don't like to hear that because they always tell you next and then fill this guy's shoes, but they never tell you with what.
You know, they always blame you for not living up to your potential. Nobody ever says, you know, maybe we were wrong in establishing such a high potential.
Exactly.
Here's a guy they think will do very well, although he struggled at third base last year. He only played about 2/3 of the year, and he led the league in errors at third base. He committed 20, but they still say he's a good prospect.
And every time they write about him, they say he always dirties his uniform. He always has a dirty uniform. That's his big reputation. You could just see it in the baseball register. Dirty uniform.
Great. Late on a good fastball. Boy, that was a tough pitch to handle, and there's Strawberry to put it away. So they will leave Glenn Wilson, who walked, at the end of 2. It is 2-0 Mets, and we'll be back after these messages from your local station. Second inning along with Gary Carter. That's a low 5. Once again, we remind our viewers we'll be selecting the Miller Lite Player of the game at the conclusion of the ball game. Sid Fernandez. That's a pretty good number for a hitter. As a pitcher, 212. He had 11 base hits last year. 0-2 the count. He'd be followed by Len Dykstra and then Tim Tuffle. Line drive, base hit inside the left field foul line. A high kick over to Reedus. Fernandez will hold on with a single. So Sid Fernandez, line single to left.
He had him crippled with 2 strikes, tried to blow the fastball by him. Fernandez really didn't drive that ball. He just swung late, hit it in the right spot, although he did hit it hard.
Fernandez will take the windbreaker, and Steve Carlton will take the respite, and then work on Len Dykstra. It's interesting how patterns work. From 1976 to 1983, the Philadelphia Phillies were first 5 times. In 1984 and 85, the Mets have come on, winning 90 games in 1984, and then last year, 98 games. But the Phillies finished 26 games back last year, 15 back the year before. So one team on the rise and the other team going down. Fly ball to right center. Milt Thompson is there, battling the sun, and made a fine catch. That thing almost got away from him.
And that's the reason he's playing, for his glove. The youngsters had a bad back. His manager, John Felski, said he knows he's going against a tough left-hander, but I need his glove in center field. And it was a tough sun he was battling, and it about took off on him.
You know, that's almost heresy here to say that they need his glove in center field, this being the home of Gary Maddox, who has won 8 gold gloves, and yet they need Milt Thompson's glove in center field.
One of the classic lines described Maddox.
Right, what was that?
Ralph Kiner said the 2/3 of the earth covered by the Atlantic and the Pacific, and the rest by Gary Maddox.
That's right.
What a line.
What a line. That's the thing. He said, I wish I had said that. He said, don't worry, I will. 0-1 to count. Ground ball hard to the hole, plugged up by Shue. Down to Samuel, and no play. Fernandez was not going to slide, and a little tough to throw around him, and no knock there intended. Take another look. Good play by Rick Shue.
He went far to his left, and he's going to make sure as he regains his balance, he's going to get the one man. Samuel had some ideas about throwing, and he decided, no, I just better hold it.
So with Tuffle at first and 2 out, here is Keith Hernandez. One thing the Mets don't figure to do with Tuffle is run him, and especially with a left-hand hitter at the plate. You want to keep the first baseman Schmidt anchored on the bag. Tuffle, in his 3-year career, has stolen 5 bases, and that was over in the American League, and he doesn't know the National League pitchers at all. I guess what I'm really saying is it's almost a waste for Mike Schmidt to be on the bag with a left-hand hitter up there.
It is, but you really do have to protect it. There's really nothing you can do in this situation.
I bet if he stood behind him, he'd hold him on just as well. Ground ball down to second. Samuel, little flip, and that'll be that. No runs, a hit, a man left, and at the end of 2.5, the Mets 2 and Philadelphia nothing.
An American tradition continues with an old-fashioned doubleheader. Next Saturday, the National League West champion Los Angeles Dodgers face the Atlanta Braves. Then it's on to Fenway Park as the Chicago White Sox take on Boston. Plus regional action. Check your local listings. The tradition is here. The memories are waiting.
As usual, Gary Carter behind the plate for the Mets. He's caught at least 100 games for the last 9 consecutive years. And, of course, he had arthroscopic surgery on his knee. And the Mets will be as good as Carter is in endurance behind there for 1986. 1-0. The count to Steve Jeltz, the kid who taught himself to be a switch hitter and would not be playing, evidently, if it hadn't been the injury suffered by Tom Foley.
Gives a lot of credit to his dad, who was a catcher in fast-pitch softball, who really encouraged him. He said he went up to the University of Kansas in the cage, and he wasn't too sure he wanted to do it. Switch hitting, but he stayed with it, and what a spring he had.
2-0 to Steve. One oddity about him, you could certainly make it a trivia note of the year. He's the only active major leaguer who was born in Paris, France. Of course, there are quite a few major leaguers who were born in Europe. Their dads were in the service during the war. That's a strike. 3-1.
The Phillies, Mike Schmidt presented Jeltz with the Grapefruit Award for being the best player in the spring.
Great for a kid fighting his way back. And he gets himself ball 4. That'll bring up Carlton. You know, we were looking at Gary Carter a minute ago. Joe and I saying 100 games for 9 straight years. The record, 13 by Bill Dickey and the Reds' Johnny Bench. And I know with a rookie, John Russell, you're interested in catchers and the different... For instance, take a look at this catcher. Do you like that setup at all? You've never seen him probably play, but I just thought you'd look at his setup. Is there anything you could advise on that?
Yeah, those hands.
You don't like those hands?
No, that's old-fashioned.
You know who that is?
Yeah, that's a kid in the neighborhood. We used to beat up on him a lot. We used to use him for second base, too.
Fernandez on the bunt will have to go to first. So the sacrifice works.
Can we please see that picture again? Is that the same kid we used for second base?
That's, well, let's see. We're talking about Dickey and Bench and Carter and you. And you see, the reason we went to all this trouble was I was trying very hard to learn to think like a catcher so that you and I could be more cohesive. So look at that.
Look at those hands.
Well, I didn't know. They said to me, close your hand.
The last time hands like that, they were on Willie Sutton.
Well, I figured it. I saw some pictures of Bill Dickey, and I thought I saw him with his hands like that.
That's like a bad bubblegum card.
You mean you don't like my bubblegum card?
No, I don't. That's a bad bubblegum card. That's the first time I ever saw a bubblegum card in a slump.
Herbie Sharpman took that picture of me in spring training.
Is that
we
right?
went to all that trouble for you to nail me down. All right.
That's a great picture, man.
Gary Reedus at second.
Why don't you tear it
Try
up?
to pick up Steve Jeltz. That's on the corner. Now, is that a way to start the year?
That's
0-1. 0-1. Uh-oh, that seemed to cross Gary up. He wasn't sure what that was, and he's saying, hold everything.
No question that crossed him up, man.
That came up in Hawaiian.
Woo! That's the kind that if you don't catch, you order 4 beers by putting up your index and little finger.
We'll pause briefly for station identification. This is the NBC Television Network. It is 2-0 in favor of the Mets. Bottom of the 3rd inning. Steve Jeltz at second base, and Reed is trying to pick him up. And the count 1 ball and 1 strike. One thing Carter didn't do was go to ask Fernandez where he lives. we got the quote of the year for Sid Fernandez. 1-1. Ball 2. Fernandez lives on, are you ready? A'awa'awa'anoa Drive in Honolulu. And regarding his address, Sid said, now I know why I don't get any mail.
How do you spell it?
A'awa'awa'anoa. And that's the right way to pronounce it. 3-1, the count to Gary Reedus.
He's not been able to get that curveball over, and much like Ray Knight said on a fastball, you can bet that Reedus right now is sitting on one.
He strikes out a lot, so it'll be interesting to see if they let him swing 3-1. Ball 4. So Fernandez now has put the tying runs aboard here in the 3rd inning with 1 out, and Milt Thompson coming up. And Davy Johnson, who admired Fernandez. In the last 2 years, Fernandez has lost about 25 pounds. That's pitching coach Mel Stottlemyre standing up. And he is a tougher, more mature pitcher. In fact, Davey said a year ago in Chicago, Fernandez was wild and began to show anger. I mean, he was just furious at the fates. And Davey went out and took him out of the game. Ball 1. And he said to him, he said, hey, son, you can't show anger out there. That shows a weakness to your teammates, and it also shows a weakness to the opposition. And Johnson said the incredible thing is, from that minute forward, he has never shown anger or anything. So Davey got his message across, and it was received by Fernandez. Now we see what he does with Milt Thompson. 2-0.
And Fernandez said he had been taught to show anger. That would show the competitive fires, which is really wrong. It shows a lack of control is what it shows.
2-0 the count to Thompson, who does not hit left-handers in his limited big league experience. Fisted foul. Boy, he came by way of first base and jammed him. 2-1. Thompson, who is 0 for 12 this year, but more important, has only 3 hits, less than 100 batting average against left-hand pitching. The middle and behind the bag. Tough play. They get a feed, and that's it. What made it tough for Tuffle, you always worry about that ball hitting the bag, and the bag becomes a mental block. It really made that a scary play, but he stayed with it. Take a look.
Tuffle made a good play because he stayed with it. Right there is where he could have lost it if he takes his eye off the ball, but you could see he followed it right into his glove and then made sure that Santana saw the ball all the way and gave him a perfect feed. Hernandez talking, as we look at Tuffle, Hernandez was talking to Fernandez and holding him on, but it's a case of, hey, get the hitter. This is the guy you got to bear down on.
This will tell you something. Is this a different Phillies team than the team we looked at last year? Tell you why. Last year, with 2 outs and runners on, the Phillies had the worst batting average in the major leagues. Well, now you got 2 on and a big hitter, the number 3 hitter up there, Juan Samuel. Ball 1. So Fernandez trying to work his way out of a scrape here in the 3rd. The Mets lead 2-0. Milt Thompson is at first, Steve Jeltz at 3rd, and Juan Samuel who flied to center at the plate. With Reedus and Thompson hitting ahead of him, they figure Samuel will get a lot more fastballs to hit.
And also with Mike Schmidt hitting behind him. Because right now you don't want Schmidt up there. You'd rather pitch to Samuel.
2-0. And now Sid Fernandez is in some trouble. Remember, we told you earlier his high in walks last year was 6. He has already walked 3, and he's not out of the 3rd inning. On deck, Schmitty. 3-0 to Samuel. And he has walked the bases full. Davy Johnson talking to Mel Stottlemyre. I think they would love to have an instant replay machine in the dugout so they can take a look, especially at the elbow, Joe.
Well, it looked like, I mean, to me, it looked like he was trying to aim that ball to make sure he threw a strike rather than that free motion he had when he opened the game. Here's the spot. Schmidt drove a fastball to right center field his first time up, and get that big power hitter up there, and you walk the guy ahead of him. He's going to be jumping on the first good pitch he sees, and if it's the first pitch that's thrown, you'll see some pretty good action.
So Mike Schmidt up there with the bases loaded, off-speed breaking ball, but he missed inside with it. Ball 1, 1-0. Smitty has 7 grand slams. The last one he hit was in 1983. And as you can see, he's hit 3 of them against the Mets. Line drive into left field. That's a base hit. 1 run comes in. Milt Thompson coming. He will score. And the Phillies have caught him 2-2. Stopping at second, Juan Samuel.
Fernandez got behind, and when you get behind, you're just playing with fire. And you can see, as the expression goes, Schmidt torches him. And does he ever? Fastball, and if he gets under that ball, it's a home run. Sinatra can just sing, and he just hit it squarely is what he did. But it was not that home run swing of Mike Schmidt, but I tell you, he had that kind of power behind that bat.
Mel Stottlemyre talking to Sid Fernandez. As you can see, that's the first hit. No one throwing in the Mets bullpen. So Mike Schmidt drives in 2 to get Philadelphia even. Juan Samuel is at second, and Glenn Wilson will be coming up. Wilson walked in the 2nd inning. So it's 2-2 in the 3rd inning.
If you remember, Wilson just stood up there and took 4 pitches. He just put the bat on his shoulders first time up, and as much as if to say, I'm going to take this first pitch. Let's see what he does this time. I doubt if he'll do that with men on 1st and 2nd.
Right, fastball on the outside part of the plate. On deck is John Russell, the catcher. John popped up in his only trip. You have 2 down. 2 runs in here in the 3rd, and we're all even 2-2. Curveball hit down to shortstop, and they go the short way for the force, and so Fernandez is out of the trouble. 2 runs, 1 hit, 2 left, and it's 2-2 at the end of 3.
This is Marv Albert in New York. In Cleveland, Jack Morris served up his 5th home run of this young season. Joe Carter of the Indians with a man on, his 2nd of the year. Morris walking 3. Indians lead the Tigers 3-0. Back to Vin and Joe.
Well, controlled pitchers give him up, but Jack Morris is on his way, isn't he?
Oh, man, he's giving up a lot in a hurry.
How about first pitch of the year? You're still humming the national anthem, and Dwight Evans takes him deep. Well, here's Gary Carter, followed by Darryl Strawberry, then George Foster, and a 2-2 tie in the 4th inning. Carter grounded to 3rd in the 1st inning. And he drives one into left center, racing over his readers to make the play. That ball was hit hard.
There was your classic example of a hanging curveball.
Darryl Strawberry, as he learns his way through in the major leagues, suffered a serious injury in May of last year, right here at Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia. In fact, actually, it was in Shea Stadium as against the Phils, and Darryl diving and, of course, suffered the injury that kept him out. And what effect did that have on the New York Mets? Well, we'll show you his numbers with and without Strawberry in a moment. With a healthy Strawberry, look at that. With Strawberry out, under 500. When he's back in, solid. So it is indeed the straw that stirs. He struck out in the second inning. 2-1. One away, top of the fourth inning. In a 2-2 tie. Foul ball. Bill Robinson coaching at first. Buddy Harrelson over at third.
Robinson has a unique way of working with hitters in the batting cage. I found it very interesting.
Ball three. What do you mean?
He's working with Howard Johnson, and he takes radio down or tapes, and he doesn't get into the rhythm of the music. Much like it's an updated version of Casey Stengel's Tra-la-la-la-boom. Tra-la-la-la-boom. And Howard Johnson likes soul music and just gets into the mood.
Strawberry strikes out for the second time against Steve Carlton. That's the third strikeout for Carlton. And it will bring up George Forster. Big curveball, and watch Strawberry.
He's way out in front. Doesn't seem to pick it up at all. He is really out in front of this one.
You know, you're talking about batting coaches. Did you read the baseball special of Sports Illustrated?
Yeah.
It is out now?
Yeah.
You know, they have the big conversation amongst Ted Williams and Wade Boggs and Don Mattingly. In that article, Ted Williams says about 5 or 6 times in his career, when he would foul a ball off, he could smell wood burning. Did you ever hear that in your whole life?
Yeah.
That the ball is spinning so much, and he's swinging the bat, and the friction actually... He could smell the wood burning.
I've never heard that. I believe it. It's like they said he could read the label of a record while it was spinning. I mean, you know, when Williams says that, you have to believe it.
A hopper back a third, inside the line and down. I think Forster might have even broken his bat on it, but he'll take the base hit. A 2-out single to left.
Could you smell the wood burning?
No, they ought to send him in a mine to look for gas. You know, if you can smell wood burning. Here's the ball hit down the line. So a 2-out single for Forster will bring up Ray Knight. Knight hit the home run in the second inning. Remember when Carlton fell behind 3-1, challenged him with a fastball? Knight hit it out. 2-2 in the fourth. In there.
So you talk about motivation. A guy like Ray Knight doesn't need it, but he has it in that big Mitchell kid who's there, who looks like Jim Ray Hart, and so does Howard Johnson. What motivates you really is how the guy in your position is doing in spring training or whenever he gets a chance to play.
Of course, Knight, having gone through that terrible physical year that he had, no doubt is saying to himself, if I just stay healthy, I'm going to do all right. And, of course, the home run gets him off in the right direction.
Well, you hate to lose your job in the whirlpool.
Well, now, the SS Knight. 0-2. 1 ball and 2 strikes. 2 out. Forster, who certainly doesn't figure to do any stealing, is at first, and nevertheless, Mike Schmidt holding the bag on him.
Now, I'd play behind him.
I don't understand it, but it's like, okay, go to the bag. Foul ball.
I think the last time George stole a base was what, on the playground?
But Mike's got hamstring. You see him rubbing his legs? He's taking medication, exercise, everything imaginable. But in April, the legs just tighten up on him. And then in May, he's fine. George last year, by the way, comes as no surprise, did not steal a base. Comebacker. Carlton to Schmitty, and that's that. So a base hit by Forster, and they leave him. And at the end of 3.5 innings, the Mets 2 and the Phillies 2 on 1 hit. How dare you make fun of my bubblegum card? Everyone I ever saw, they had their hands full. You mean you're not like that, like that?
Hi.
No good, huh?
No good.
I couldn't find a Dale Long left-handed mitt. What are you going to do? Oh.
Even Rusty Staub was up his laughing. He's an outfielder, and they don't even pay any attention to catchers.
Redheads do not laugh at redheads. Big, slow jug. Missing to John Russell. 1 ball and no strikes. John popped up in the second inning. He'll be followed by Rick Shue and then Steve Jeltz. We got a good one. 2-2 here in the 4th inning. Sid Fernandez trying to find the strike zone. He walked 3 in the 3rd inning. He's walked 4 in the game. But he's even 2-2. And he now 3-0.
Russell makes no bones about it. He'd rather catch than play any other position, although the Phillies have tried him at first base and tried him in the outfield.
3-0. And there's ball 4 to John Russell. Moves his way along, and that's 5 walks given up by Fernandez. As we mentioned, his high last year was 6. Of course, it is his first time out, and there's no one throwing in the pen because he's even in the ballgame 2-2.
See somebody getting up, and I see Lynch is starting to stir a little bit.
Right. One thing Rick Shue wants to do this year that he didn't do last year, and there goes Lyons, Barry Lyons down to the pen. But Rick Shue wants to drive in some runs. In over 400 at-bats last year, he only had 24 RBIs. There's no way to replace Mike Schmidt doing that. 1-1.
You know, when you sit up here and you watch a pitcher like Fernandez struggling like that, it really takes its effect on the infielders. You can almost see them after the pitch just go back on their heels as if to say, another ball. Another ball.
Yeah, the good defensive plays are usually made back of the control pitchers.
Definitely.
1-1. Now he's really hurt. So he walks Russell after coming off an inning where he walked 3, and he immediately is behind to shoot. 2-0. And there's Ed Lynch in the pen. Shue last year had a bad ratio. He struck out more than twice as many times as he walked. Now let's see what that does as far as 2-1. It certainly means they're not looking for any kind of a play. 2-2. If the count goes to 3-2, this would really be a tough decision.
Yes, it would.
You know, you have a strikeout hitter and a pitcher who's not around the plate.
Well, you give it that run and hit play. Swing if it's a strike, take it if it's a ball.
2-2. Strike on the corner. So Shue pays the price. That's the second strikeout for Sid Fernandez, and with 1 out, Steve Jeltz coming up. Last year, all of his problems as a right-handed batter, so he was just forced to switch. Off speed and behind.
The tribute, though, is that he did it on his own, and in addition to that, he really built himself up. You can't tell because of the sweatshirt, but he's got some powerful arms.
You weightlifting?
Yes, and it all came from proper weightlifting and just a lot of hard work.
1 ball, no strikes. In there. 2-2. We're in the bottom of the 4th. 1 away. 1 ball and 1 strike to Jeltz with John Russell standing at first.
I say proper because there are still some managers who just hate that word, lifting weights. But then again, you know, they say, well, you got to hit the ball, not lift the building. Well, if you do it right, you get the job done.
Half swing. It'll cost him a strike. 1-2. Pretty good fastball. He wasn't aiming that fastball. He cut it loose, and it seemed to sail a little.
It's high enough, and Jeltz thought he could get it and tries to hold up, but no, he went around.
1-2 the count to Jeltz. Steve Carlton, a good hitting pitcher, on deck. Well, at least that's one of the few times he has missed low. He's been missing high and wide, but that's the first pitch low is Carlton, alone with his thoughts in the on-deck circle. 2 balls, 2 strikes to Steve Jeltz.
You know, you were talking about Carter, and we all know about his ability, but Vin, you notice that even though Fernandez has walked a lot of people, he doesn't appear to be wild because Carter's not jumping all over the place. In fact, that pitch, he was trying to frame it a la Bob Boone.
Bob Davidson is the plate umpire. 3-2, so we'll keep an eye on Russell with 1 out. He is going. And as a ground ball to short, they go to second too late. Everybody's safe. It was not only late, but Tuffle didn't find a handle on it. We'll see if it's a straight fielder's choice.
It'd have been tough to get Jeltz, I'll tell you, but he's going down the line. He's in there, and that Tuffle can't find the handle in that big glove. Whoop, he's got it. It popped out. Santana, he had to go to second base. Russell got down there in good shape. Vin mentioned that Carlton being a good hitter. He just missed a grand slam in Cincinnati by a matter of a couple feet.
So 2 on with 1 out here in the 4th inning, a 2-2 tie. Carlton sacrificed his first trip, fouled it away, and it's going to be a straight fielder's choice. Look at all those hits, huh? 300. How many hits you get in your career? Did you get
338?
2 on. You have Russell at second, Jeltz at first.
I think Carter got crossed up again. With a man on second base, he's switching signs, and they're just having some problems. And Gary is kind of climbing all over.
Yeah, I think he chewed him out a little bit then.
You had to, because in a spot like this, you don't even worry about injuries. You just worry about keeping that ball in front of you. He definitely is having problems with his man on second base. They're switching signs, and Fernandez is forgetting about it.
Carter slammed his fist into his mitt as if to say, come on now, get off the surfboard. Let's go. Strike 1. In there. Another thing, Mel Stottlemyre said he was very impressed with Fernandez this spring. Not only has he lost a lot of weight, but Mel was saying, and there he is, that Fernandez really did very well in fielding his position. Well, he might be asked to field his position here, although there's 2 strikes on Carlton now. He's going to swing. And it's a fly ball to center. Dykstra with the shades down. Tagging is Russell. The catch is made, and the runners will hold. So Carlton, a fly ball to Len Dykstra. 2 down, and Gary Reed is coming up.
Tell you, when they cross you up, your pitcher does that. For about 4 pitches after that, you're just never sure that he saw the right sign, and you're a little bit tentative back there. And it's tough enough when you're sure of what's coming to play that position.
Well, Fernandez now trying to get Reedus and get out of the inning. Reedus could have his picture taken with a group of promising young Cincinnati outfielders who never made it. Never made it with Cincinnati. Do you remember some of the names? Paul Householder, Dwayne Walker, Eddie Milner, and Gary Reedus. Things really turned sour on Reedus last year. So he's happy, I think, to be with a new club. In 1985, he had only 3 RBIs after the 22nd of July. And that was a home run. I mean, from the end of July, he was never heard from. Well, he's got a chance here with Russell at second, Jeltz at first. 2 out. 1 and 2. In '83, people fell in love with Reedus because he hit 17 home runs, and they thought, uh-oh, got another star. The next 2 years, he hit a total of 13. Two and 2. You start to wonder, it's only the 4th inning, just how many pitches Sid Fernandez is going to use today. So all kinds of deuces up there. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 out, a 2-2 tie, and number 22 at the plate. And there he goes. Reedus strikes out for the 3rd strikeout for Fernandez. And at the end of 4, 2-2 tie. We'll be back after these messages from your local station. Coming up next, the Family Circle Cup live from Hilton Head, South Carolina. We'll see Chrissy Everett and Stephanie Rahe. And, of course, on clay, Chrissy, a champion indeed. She's won it 8 times. That's next after baseball. Rafael Santana. He'll be followed by Sid Fernandez and then Len Dykstra. 1 ball and no strikes. Santana rolled to short in the 2nd inning. We have a 2-2 tie. We're in the top of the 5th inning. Strike. The Mets kind of pecking away have had a hit in every inning. The Phillies have just 1 hit, but because of Fernandez's wildness, they're even up. That's the story. 2-1 to count. Fly ball into left center field. Thompson and Reedus. It will be Reedus.
That was one of the things Felsky was talking about that is a little bit better, in fact, a whole lot better than last year, is the defense he's got in the outfield. He's got some fellows who can cover that ground in Reedus, Thompson, and Wilson. And, of course, as we mentioned earlier, Maddox on the bench.
So Gary Reedus covering the gap very well. 1 down, and Sid Fernandez the batter. Fernandez with the count 0-2. Got a fastball and hit it inside out. Inside third and down the line for a single. Back in the 3rd inning. He tests him again. 0-1.
Let me ask you something, Vin, on what you've seen so far of Carlton. You think he's
I like him, yeah. Yeah, I don't, you know, you're not going to see that great slider that used to kill and eat up the right-hand hitters, but he's doing well. 1 hopper down to Juan Samuel. 2 down.
I think if you ask the question, has he got enough stuff to win?
Yeah.
Definitely yes.
So with 2 out, Len Dykstra coming up. Milwaukee, as you can see, out in front of the Yankees, 1-0 in the 4th inning. You know, opening day, the Yankees won and the Mets won. And the headline in the New York paper was, Subway Series on track.
That's what I call hype, man.
That's overkill. Strike. 0-1. Dykstra 1 for 2 with a run scored. Remember, Carlton late getting off the mound when Dykstra reached on the 1st inning ground ball. And Steve, now you can bet, will not make that mistake again. They shorten up Shue at 3rd. Big sweeping curveball. Dykstra kind of bailing out a little bit. The right side of the infield is deep on Dykstra. Breaking ball strike. He flinched on that.
Oh, yeah. He came from first base, and that right leg said, hey, rest of the body stay. I'm going.
See you later.
Ah, I can really sympathize with that.
2-2. And a shot up the middle for a base hit. That was an off-speed pitch. There really wasn't anything on it. I don't know what kind of a label you'd put on it, but it was a nothing pitch, and it was up.
That was a BP pitch is what it was. He got the ball. It was the best pitch he threw as far as the hitter was concerned. I mean, it is a slow-breaking curveball. It's up above the belt high, and Carlton knows it. It was just a bad pitch.
So the Mets keep it up, at least a hit in every inning, but there's no payoff at the hit window, and here's Tim Tuffle. Dykstra stole 15 bases for the Mets last year. So Mike Schmidt is up there holding the corner. Tuffle has grounded out, hit into a force play. Tuffle having a look at Buddy Harrelson coaching at 3rd. Schmidt holding the corner on Dykstra.
Why not? I mean, they could try something. If Dykstra gets thrown out, you got Tuffle leading off and Hernandez to follow.
Dykstra with Schmidt up in front of him, and again we're taking a look at Tuffle. Tuffle looks like he's learned to hit a little bit like the Charlie Lau influence. He really gets that weight back at the last second and then kind of drives a la Don Mattingly with not exactly the same results. 1-1.
That's not that good Carlton move. He'll pop your shoestrings when he gives you the good move.
Comebacker off the glove of Carlton, deflected to Samuel, and they get the force play. So it gives Steve Carlton an assist on that. 1-4-6 to erase Dykstra, and at the end of 4.5, 2-2 tie. We're going to the bottom of the 5th inning, a 2-2 tie. Milt Thompson, Juan Samuel, and Mike Schmidt. Thompson struck out, hit into a force play, 0 for 2. And a drag bunt. Down to get it, Fernandez can't. Tried to shovel it, couldn't do it. So a good play, and for Milt Thompson, that will be his first hit as a Philly.
Ray Knight really forced him in, and he tried to drag it past Fernandez. He didn't quite get it by him. Fernandez knew he would have to scoop it over to his first baseman, Hernandez, but not in time.
So for Milt Thompson, who was the best pinch hitter in the major leagues last year, now they want him to be a regular, and the drought is over. He had gone 0 for 13 before dragging for a hit. And here is Juan Samuel. Now they have the speed that they have wanted with Thompson aboard and Samuel at the plate.
That's another difference in these Phillies, the speed at the top of the lineup, Reedus and Thompson.
Thompson, not a regular, so he only had 9 stolen bases, but he has stolen as many as 68 in the minor leagues, so you know he can run, and he will run for the Phils.
Belsky's statement is, he says, I hit and run with the top of my lineup, which is really a euphemism for they're on their own, they can go. He wants things to happen, and he's got some guys that can make it happen now.
He had a man go last night down 6-1.
That's right.
1 ball, no strike.
He's got some ideas. He's got a bigger lead. He's on the artificial surface.
And there he goes. Pitch is high. The throw is late.
He had no chance. Carter had no chance. You could measure. Thompson had him measured with his foot on the dirt, and then he got 1 foot on the carpet, and it was too big a lead.
So the key to that, it was the good pitch to defense against. It was a high fastball. The catcher was up out of the crouch ready to throw, but the pitcher had neglected to hold the runner close enough.
Exactly.
So Samuel now with a count 2-0. Might have chased a bad ball, maybe. Of course, with Fernandez, he has a tendency to have a running fastball anyway.
Looked like he was trying to hit the ball to the right side, which really bothers me. You got your third place hitter up there. It is the 5th inning. 2 balls and no strikes, and he's going to hit a ground ball to the second base.
I really think he wasn't. I think he was fooled, and he hurt himself. He's all right now, but he hurt his back.
But 2 balls and no strikes, you don't chase that pitch outside. He may have hurt himself. You got a pitcher crippled. You're going to look for that ball you can drive. He was trying to go to the opposite field.
So John Felsky, I know it's the small of his back, and when he lunged even as high as we are here in the stadium, you could pick up that, Samuel is not going to continue. He sure did hurt himself. So Von Hayes is out. Hayes, with a contusion of his right calf, nevertheless played last night, a rather heroic effort. And now they have Samuel go to the pits. Luis Aguayo. There's Samuel. Let's take a look at the pitch that really hurt him as he chased it. Here it comes.
Now it's 2 balls and no strikes. That's way out of the strike zone, like he's trying to hit the ball to the right side. And my point is that in a 2-2 ball game, your third place hitter, get that ball you can really take a good cut at.
He realized about mid-swing, and then when he tried to stop, that's when he hurt his back, I believe. So Aguayo will have to pick up the count. 2 balls and 1 strike.
I remember Billy Martin and I had a big discussion about that, and he said, well, you got to get the ground ball. I said, if you promise me up to the 7th inning that your 3rd and 4th place hitter will hit that with a man on second base, I'll send limos to pick up those guys. I want my guy to try to knock in that run. 7th, 8th, and 9th inning, that's something else again.
Well, Aguayo now, this is a tough at-bat. You inherit a count. You've been sitting in the dugout, not even mentally prepared really to play, and you dropped in the fire immediately with Mike Schmidt on deck. 2 balls, 1 strike to Aguayo. And he bunts in the air, foul. And I think maybe Fernandez got in the way. I think if he had left the runway clear, Carter might have made the play. Maybe. And Gary looked like he got something in his eye. Look at this.
He sees Fernandez. He's going to jump over him now, and he gets a little collision here with Knight.
See his head drop. He could see Fernandez. He broke stride immediately.
And he took a little bit of a shoulder right across the chin.
This is a tough at-bat. We've lost one hitter, and we almost lost the catcher. So Aguayo fouling the bunt off. Down he goes. Let's get a report on Kansas City and go to Marv Albert.
Thank you, Vin. Dennis Leonard of Kansas City making it back from knee surgery. First start in 3 years pitching shutout ball against Toronto through 6, allowing only 2 hits. They're bottom of the 6th. Casey in Toronto, scoreless Jim Acker and Dennis Leonard. Back to Vin and Joe.
Well, that's a great story. That Dennis Leonard, well, what a surprise. Not just to go 6, a 2-hitter as well. Wow.
And against Toronto, good ball club.
Here's Mike Schmidt. Ball 1.
And you can't have enough pitching, and Kansas City's got plenty of pitching. They really throw some arms at you.
You know, a few innings ago, we mentioned the fact that the Phillies were the worst in the major leagues in hitting with 2 out and runners on. Well, they only have 1 out now. But we'll see what they can do. They've had a lot of men get on base today. So far, they're 1 for 7, and Felsky and Lee Elia doing more than just chewing tobacco. The only hit was a single by Mike Schmidt. So with the walks that Fernandez has given, Phillies no doubt feel that they should have a lot more. 2-2. Milt Thompson at second. 1 out. 3-0.
Hey, there's no pitching around him because you got Glenn Wilson coming up, and if you're going to ask me, would I let him hit? I very definitely would let him hit, because if he matches strength against strength, Schmidt's got a pretty good chance of pulling that left field seats right in behind third. He can really get a rip.
3-0. He missed him from here to Pittsburgh. That's 7 walks given up by Sid Fernandez. Davy Johnson and Mel Stottlemyre being very, very patient because they are 2-2 here in the 5th inning. But the left-hander has reverted to form, and he's on the wild side.
He got Wilson last time with a breaking ball in on the hand.
Yankees got that run, by the way, on a home run by Dave Winfield. So 2 on, and here's Wilson. Foul ball, 0-1.
Got a chance here, Vin. Wilson came up to me before the game. He said, I got to tell you something. I heard you say something. He said, it really came home to me. I said, what's that? He said, remember when you said if you're not hitting, it's a hitch, and if you're hitting, it's a trigger mechanism?
Right.
He said, when the Phillies signed me, he said, you'll never hit with this hitch. Last year, they said, boy, that's some timer you got.
Some trigger mechanism, Glenn. 100 ribbies. Thompson at second. Schmidt at first with 1 out here in the 5th. 1-1. Santana tried to do the best he can at shortstop to bird dog Thompson and hold him near the bag. But with a right-hand hitter up there, that's tough. He's going to be in motion on the pitch. And now Fernandez is behind for the umpteenth time, 2-1.
Boy, here's where the gun is loaded, right here.
And 1 strike to Glenn Wilson. You know, you saw that number, 18 RBIs for Wilson against the Mets. You know, Hubie Brooks of Montreal, who used to play for the Mets, had 100 RBIs last year. He had 23 of those RBIs against Pittsburgh.
Here comes another one of those challenges. 3-1.
And the bases are loaded. Sid Fernandez is hanging on by his fingertips. Now, Mel Stottlemyre went out to counsel him. Davy Johnson is bringing a hook. Seven walks, and he's gone. That's 1 more than he gave up in any one game last year. So it's still 2-2, 1 out. But hang on. Ed Lynch coming out of the bullpen to try and bail out Sid Fernandez. Those were his numbers last year. He was also beaten twice by Philadelphia without a victory last year. And lifetime he is 3-6. In contrast to Sid Fernandez, and that's exactly what you need, you have a pitcher here who almost worked 200 innings last year and walked but 27 batters. So you have taken a man out of his walk 7, and you've brought in a fella who throws strikes. And what a spot. You have Milt Thompson at third, Mike Schmidt at second, Glenn Wilson at first. We have 1 out in the 5th inning and a 2-2 tie. John Russell, whose first big league home run was a pinch hit home run against the Mets 2 years ago, has a chance to do some more damage. He's 0 for 1. The infield playing halfway. Strike. He started in breaking ball, too. He went right after him.
You have to go out and get Ed Lynch. He'll throw strikes. And as far as Russell, the bat is the big thing with him. That's why they tried him in other positions when they had Ozzie Virgil over here. They wanted to get that bat in the lineup.
1 ball and 1 strike. Yeah, when you think they have traded away both Bo Diaz and Ozzie Virgil, it's Russell's job to keep. 1 ball and 1 strike. Way outside. Down in the Mets bullpen, Randy Newman begins to throw. Two balls and 1 strike to John Russell with 1 out and the bases loaded. Control pitcher is in trouble. He's thrown all breaking balls, and he's behind 3-1.
And he has missed pretty badly.
Well, you come in this spot and throw 4 breaking balls. You got to figure he's throwing fastball against a guy like Russell. That could really be damaging. There it is. Fastball hit into left field. In comes Thompson. In comes Schmidt. Stopping at second is Wilson. 4-2 Philadelphia.
Your artificial surface hit, that big high hopper that Ray Knight just couldn't get. And with George Foster in left field, Mike Schmidt didn't even hesitate. They're going to run on anything hit the left field. Watch Knight. He thinks he's got a chance and comes in, and whoops, the rabbit in the baseball just showed up, and it's a 2-run RBI single for John Russell.
So now that brings up Rick Shue with Glenn Wilson at second, John Russell at first. 1 out. 4-2 Philadelphia. The Mets, as you see, led 2-0 at the end of an inning and a half. You have 2 teams playing today who did not do well in 1-run games last year at all. The Phillies last year lost 35 games by 1 run, and the Mets weren't that much better. They lost 31. So with Wilson at second, Russell at first, they'd like to widen the gap a little bit. Well, we said they substituted a wild pitcher for a control pitcher, but he was behind 3-1 and had to throw the fastball. Now he's behind 2-0.
Well, it's almost like the old joke. Fernandez got that mound so screwed up, nobody can pitch off it.
And all 4 runs are charged to Sid, as is Wilson at second. Breaking ball over. Good one. Got the corner. Inside corner. 2-2. The switch hitting Steve Jeltz, and he's trying to get his left-handed stroke ready. But Randy Neiman is throwing down in the pen, perhaps getting ready just to turn Jeltz around. 3-2. So Eddie went 3-1. Now he's 3-2, and Neiman is that closer to coming in. We'll watch the runners. Glenn Wilson at second and John Russell at first. with 1 out and a full count.
Be a good idea if they run to bear down on Russell, going from first to second, nip him if they go.
They do not go, and the pitch is lifted to left field. He hit that off his front foot. He was really out in front of it. Foster catches it, and the runner's hold. So 2 down. Steve Jeltz will now hit left-handed. And we'll watch and see whether the Mets figure to counter it or not. And Johnson and Stottlemyre don't make a move. So Neiman's down there saying, am I getting ready for Carlton?
How many swings he took in that batting cage of him, and talking to him, he said the first couple of nights when he'd go to sleep, his body was twitching like he was still batting left-handed. That's how many swings he took in that cage.
They talk in golf about muscle memory. His memory wouldn't quit, wouldn't let go. 1 ball and no strikes to count. Steve Jeltz trying to extend the inning. It's 4-2 Philadelphia, bottom of the 5th. Fastball on the corner. So I guess he lulls you. You walk up there and you see so many breaking balls, you can't expect to ever see a straight one. 1 ball, 1 strike.
He's in and out. Lynch is in and out, up and down, changes speeds.
There's the breaking ball, punched to third. Right there is Ray Knight, and he goes to Hernandez. So the Phillies settle for 2, and they wind up with 2 hits and leave 2. At the end of 5, 4-2 in favor of Philadelphia.
This is Marv Albert in New York in a Yankee Stadium. An explosive 5th inning for the Yankees. Butch Weineger with his second 3-run home run of the season, preceded by a Dave Winfield home run. The Brewers' Ted Higuera whacked around. Yanks 4, Milwaukee 1 in the 6th. Back to Vin and Joe.
So Butch Weineger, who's playing in Yankee Stadium, has made the most of it.
Boy, he has. What a start he's off to. And here was the fellow talking about not going back there at all.
Well, he can duck in the fact the Indians making life miserable for Jack Morris with the home run, and they're leading him 3-0 in the 3rd.
Did you see Sparky's line in the paper talking about Trammell's shoulder?
Oh, about pain doesn't hurt you?
Yeah, he said he's got to play with pain. Pain can't hurt you.
Keith Hernandez, Gary Carter, and Darryl Strawberry. 4-2 Philadelphia in the 6th. You know my favorite quote of the spring, and I don't want to use names, but it's supposed to be a true story, and I don't want to embarrass anybody. The story is good enough to stand on its own. Ball 1. The new manager of a ball club in the National League called a kid pitcher in who had had a losing year last year and said, you're going to have to pitch inside. And the kid looked at him and said, have you traded me to Houston? Deadly serious. Well, Carlton came inside, and they count 1 ball and no strikes.
They come up with him.
Carlton now, remember, he's getting into the 6th inning, and they will be watching him very carefully. So down in the bullpen, Dave Rucker and Kent Tekulve begin to throw back of him. The most innings he worked last year, 7 innings. He did that 4 times. 2-1. Came in on the hands. He's pitching inside.
And hard stuff. He has not relied on that breaking ball. A little sidebar here. If indeed Carlton and the Phillies should win, Osteen said he's the spokesman now, and he's got a victory speech already.
Well, he takes care of Keith Hernandez. He's 0 for 3. Lefty picks up his 4th strikeout. Yeah, we were talking earlier. He sure looks good enough to win.
He's got good enough stuff. They talk about his arm. That ball was on the inside part of the plate. They talk about his arm being in the right spot, that last year he was dropping his arm and coming almost sidearm, stopping, and then slinging it. Now it's really going through there. Osteen says no physical problems, and he's happy with what he has been watching.
Gary Carter had a home run last night here, 5 RBIs. He's hit 22 home runs at Veterans Stadium, more than any other visiting player, so he loves this ballpark. And in his career, he has 36 home runs against Philadelphia. Strike. 1-1 to Gary, followed by Darryl Strawberry. The Mets trying to play catch-up. The Phils, 4 runs, 3 hits. The Mets, 2 runs, 5 hits. Remember, Carlton won 1 game last year, and he is the pitcher of record. He has gone the required 5 as a starter. This might be his last inning. There he is in the strikeout list, but he could win this time. Line drive, base hit to left. He got the ball up, and Carter whacks it. And now Darryl Strawberry with a chance to get the Mets even. The Mets continue to get a hit an inning. No more, no less. Strawberry, however, has struck out twice. 0 for 2 against Carlton. There's 1 out. We're in the 6th. Phillies 4, Mets 2. Mike Schmidt holding the bag on Gary Carter. That's at the knees. 2-1.
He looks like he can hit. Oh, he just looks like he can hit.
I'm amazed again. I really am that Schmidt's on the bag. You don't expect Carter to be running. And, of course, the Mets are delighted to have him over there. Ground ball to the right side. They're going to get that one. They're going to get that one. So a 4-6-3 double play. And the inning is over. No runs, a hit, nobody left, and it's still 4-2 Philadelphia. A reminder tomorrow on NBC Sports World, part 2 of the Superstars. Be sure to tune in and watch another constellation of sports stars featuring Mark Gastineau of the New York Jets, Willie Gault of the Super Bowl champion Chicago Bears, and Vince Coleman of baseball St. Louis Cardinals as they test their speed, strength, and agility in an exciting array of athletic competition. Watch the stars shine tomorrow at 4 p.m. on NBC Sports World. And here's lefty, as they call him here, Steve Carlton. And he is into the bottom of the 6th inning, leading 4-2. Popped it in the air, back of the plate. Carter with a play. One away.
See Carter saying, "Did you see that ball?" I saw it all right. Shouldn't be a high sky. Should have no problem.
And actually, he went from sunlight into shade. Gary Reedus flied to center, walked, and struck out. The Philadelphia bullpen is quiet now, and the Mets get Bruce Perrine up. Breaking ball. The pitcher's spot, occupied by Ed Lynch, is due a 4th when the Mets bat in the 7th inning. So they're thinking hitter. Fastball. He's thrown that thing for a strike, but he's always behind when he's forced to throw it.
He really spotted it well, though, right on that outside corner.
Ed Lynch, born in Brooklyn, New York. I remember his dad worked in Ebbets Field. The anniversary of Ebbets Field opening back in 1913 was just a couple of days ago. Check swing foul. Watch Carter going after that foul.
He heard something.
Or somebody tried to distract him in the stands.
Or his own bench, for that matter.
1-2, the count to Gary Reedus. Fly to center, walk, struck out, and the count 2-2.
You'd be surprised how many times the guys on the bench are wrong. You know, they'll holler no play, and Wynn takes it back.
As Reedus strikes out for the 2nd time, it is a point to be taken. Another area where the Phillies need desperate improvement is in striking out. In fact, last year they struck out 1,095 times. You have to go back to the dreaded 1970 San Diego Padres to find a team that struck out that much. So Felsky has his work cut out. One hopper through, base hit for Thompson, who is 2 for 4. And Lenny Dykstra right there.
He's 2 for 4, and I remember the line that Felsky used. He said, I'm going to use Thompson because I need his glove out there. I may be sacrificing him, but I'm going to use him. So that you might be seeing the start of a ball player who just was on the brink there, not too sure of himself. Now he's got 2 base hits and hey, I belong here.
Yep. Thompson held on by Hernandez. Here is Luis Aguayo, who had to take over when Juan Samuel chased a 2-0 fastball, tried to check up and hurt his back. And Aguayo finished up and struck out.
He's going to try it. I got to believe he's going to try it. Lynch got a pretty good move.
With all the breaking balls he's been throwing, you would figure Thompson is going to hope that he'd get a breaking ball to steal on. And they pitch out.
Now he's got it. His foot is just barely on the artificial surface. That's the first thing. It's so easy to measure him now. Not that that tells you that much, but you can at least see how big a lead they get.
And he got that lead, remember, against a left-hander who was looking right at him, Sid Fernandez. Short lead that time.
Yeah, well, he quick pitched him, too. Lynch is, you know, he didn't fall off that famous turnip truck. He quick pitched him there and held him there. Thompson didn't know what was going on. The pitch was on his way before he realized it.
Aguayo looking down to Jimmy Davenport, coaching at third. 2-0. The knuckles, ball 3. Of course, you lose Aguayo, and you're going to get Mike Schmidt.
That's what you worry about when you worry about those base runners.
Aguayo remembers the Mets in the sense his first major league home run was hit at Shea Stadium.
Would you make him take here now?
3-1. I think not knowing whether he's a double play hitter or not, I would certainly have Thompson go. 2 down, 3-1 to count to Aguayo. There he goes. Fouled away. Now, that's part of the way I would have played it anyway, and I'm happy he did.
Well, you won that one. I would not have sent him only because I'm saying maybe he'll walk him and get Schmidt up there. I mean, you can see what Felsky was doing. If he does miss the pitch and Thompson steals it, fine. If he doesn't and ends the inning, then Aguayo leads off. So a lot of things going on.
Well, you know he's going now. 3-2 with 2 out. And as a drive in the air to right, but Strawberry is right there. And Darrell puts it away, and that's it. So they leave Thompson, and at the end of 6, Phillies 4, Mets 2. We'll be back after these messages from your local station. Richie Ashburn, center fielder, 1950 National League champion whiz kid. 1962 most valuable player of the New York Mets. Now broadcaster and writer here in Philadelphia. When he got the MVP in New York, he said, that's some honor. I'm the most valuable player of the worst team in baseball. 7th inning, 4-2 Philadelphia. The 2 numbers retired. George Foster struck out, singled, and he's 1 for 2.
The gun is registering Carlton at 85, 86 miles per hour. The best they've had on Carlton has been 86, and there you see it.
1-1.
Ken Hunsapple was the fellow with the red jacket, had the gun. Next to him, Tom Ferrick, the great Bobby Wine on the far right, Mickey Vernon with the hat on. But Tom Ferrick, we sent word to get his opinion, and really a lot of praise.
On the corner, 1-2.
Ferrick said it's the best fastball he has seen Carlton have in a long time.
And here he is into the 7th. Remember, that was his longest work all year last year. 7 innings. 2-2. They back him up in the pen again. Last inning, they had Dave Rucker and Kent Tekulve. And the same 2 are up again. Tekulve wears glasses. You remember that sidearm sinker, and the left-hander Rucker has been replaced now by Don Carmen. busted bat again, and a ground ball to third. Up with it is Shue to get him. So that's the second time that Foster has broken his bat. He singled in the 4th inning, but not this time.
He thought the ball was hit much harder, and he really loops, and he's got plenty of time to loop it, and it gets in good position, although it's the second time that I've seen him throw off balance, and he's going to give you some adventures throwing like that.
Well, as we mentioned earlier, he had led all third basemen in errors last year, and he played 2/3 of the year. Here's Ray Knight. Fouled away. Knight homered in the 2nd inning. That was the first test that Carlton got. He came in with the fastball 3-1, and Knight hit it out. Last time up, Knight hit back to the box. 1 for 2. Phillies 4 runs, 4 hits. The Mets 2 runs, 6 hits with 1 hit an inning.
Goes back to it's been in baseball many years, but when you can respect that fastball, your breaking ball is more effective. You can't go up there looking breaking ball saying, I don't care how hard he throws, I can still get around that fastball.
And there's one other thing. In contrast to the 7 walks that Sid Fernandez gave up, Steve Carlton has not walked a batter. Fastball. 2-2. Knight followed by Santana. Mets got a run in the 1st, a run in the 2nd. Phil's got 2 in the 3rd and 2 in the 5th to take the lead.
He's made 101 pitches, so he's pretty much on track.
Ground ball hard inside 3rd. What a stop by Shue, but the throw way offline, and Knight is on his way to 2nd as it's finally retrieved by Aguayo. Great stop by Rick Shue, but he really never had a prayer. It'll be 1-1, a single and an error.
That's one of those plays Mr. Rickey called the errors of enthusiasm. He makes the play. Really, he should have stopped right there, but he wasn't satisfied. He thinks he can get him at first base and really throws it into a double. No manager gets upset at that, though. They'll talk to him about it, but they'll say, hey, just try to figure out what's going to happen after you get the ball.
Strike. So with 1 out, Ray Knight at 2nd base, and Santana trying to pick him up, and they will go to the bench and have a hitter for Ed Lynch, and that'll be Kevin Mitchell. You mentioned Kevin earlier, and he's out on deck. There he is.
I'm telling you, he's strong. Reminds you so much of Jim Ray Hart. He jacks some balls out in batting practice. He is really strong.
1 ball and 1 strike. Oh, good breaking ball. Boy, the bottom dropped out of that thing. 1-2. Santana will have to think that over a little bit. The Mets have not squandered opportunities. It's really only the 2nd at-bat they've had with a man in scoring position, and they picked up the other man. And they're going to try and pick up Knight. Let's see. They're going to stop him at 3rd. So a base hit by Santana sends Ray Knight to 3rd, and with 1 out, Kevin Mitchell will be coming up. That's 7 hits for the Mets, 2 hits in the inning. John Felsky now has his bullpen hot if he's ready.
I think he's going to have his catcher go out there to stall for time and give his bullpen a little more heat. You saw him holler out there, and Carlton will just have to stand there and listen, and all Russell will say, hey, when the umpire comes out here, you tell me, and I'll walk back because I think the manager wants to make a move. There's no strategy going on. And I guess it's pretty tough for Russell to talk to Carlton.
Remember the classic time I asked Bob Gibson about having a rookie come to the mound and talk to you, and all he said was, I wouldn't allow it. Carlton will at least tolerate Russell being sent to the mound, and now here comes John Felsky.
You know, that was one of the things that Russell really has to overcome, is being intimidated by Carlton and call his own game and not saying, hey, I'm catching a superstar.
You know, it was an interesting combination at the start of the game. You had a rookie catcher catching a superstar against a rookie pitcher being caught by a superstar. Kent Tekulve is going to be coming in from the bullpen, and Steve Carlton goes out with the Phillies leading 4-2, but Carlton, the runners at first and third, are his responsibility.
You don't give your word, then go back on the deal. You don't.
A reminder coming up next on NBC Sports, Chrissy Everett versus Stephanie Rahe in the Family Circle Cup Tennis from Hilton Head, South Carolina. Long and lean, Kent Tekulve. He's 39 years old, relieving 41-year-old Steve Carlton. 6'4", 185-pounder. One of the best closers in the league for years. But as recently as '83, he tied for the league lead in games finished. But that was as a Pirate. Now, as a Philly, his job's supposed to be a middle reliever. He'll set the table for Don Carmen and Steve Bedrosian. Last year at one stage, Teak, as they call him in Pittsburgh, lost 8 straight. The Mets, meanwhile, have made a switch. They want a left-handed bat. Danny Heap will hit for Kevin Mitchell. And we're about ready. So with a runner at first, Santana, and a runner at third, Knight, here's Danny Heap. 1-1. Now that Rusty Staub is up in the broadcasting booth, the Mets are looking to Danny Heap to get some of the big pinch hit at-bats that Rusty had in his glorious career. The fact that there was still a 25-man roster, Rusty might be up there right now. Right, Rusty had 100 pinch hits. 1-1.
You can see by the positioning of Russell and the way where Tekulve's throwing that ball, he's looking for that sinker out away from the plate, get that ground ball.
1 away in the 7th. Phillies 4, Mets 2, and the Mets trying to get off the floor. A little looper to left field. That's going to fall for a base hit. 1 run is in. Santana stops at second, and it is Phil's 4 and the Mets 3.
There's a case, I believe, Ben, of a hitter hitting a pitcher's mistake. You saw where Russell was, and he got that ball inside, and Heap was able to inside out. Watch where the pitch is, and inside part of the plate, he goes in and out. Russell was to the outside part of the plate looking for that sinker, and Heap, good piece of hitting.
Now you have Santana, the tying run at second base. Danny Heap, a possible go-ahead runner at first. And Len Dykstra at the plate. Dykstra is 2 for 3 against Carlton. Now he's facing Tekulve. Remember, Santana at second belongs to Carlton. If Santana scores, Carlton has nothing to do with the ball game. 4-3 Philadelphia in the 7th. And a bunt back towards Tekulve, who has a play, and it's off the glove of Shoe. You know who was surprised? Sure. Danny Heap. Danny Heap wasn't moving, and they would have had a double play if he had thrown to second.
Any place but third. Shoe was surprised himself, I believe. He just went over to cover the bag just to be there, and you can see, look where his position is right there. I think that was one of those plays that when Tekulve got, he said, I better go to third, and that surprised a few people.
Danny Heap almost fell in a heap, and that would have been an easy play at second, but this is a look at the play at third.
Shoe, he can't even find the bag yet. Just now got his foot on there. He was surprised by that play.
So we'll see how they rule it, but the bases are loaded. And the batter is Tim Tuffle. Tuffle grounded out, hit into 2 force plays, and the infield looking for the DP, fouled away. So Rafael Santana is at third. Danny Heap is at second, and Len Dykstra is at first.
Well, that Dykstra, you know he's going to bunt. There's not much you can do, and he just upsets everything.
4-3 in favor of Philadelphia, but here come the Mets. the plate, and John Russell is there. Boy, is that ever a big out. So Tuppo fouls out, and now Tekulve has to face Keith Hernandez. Or Willie.
Well, I was going to say, or Willie, because the
Here comes
left-handed
Felsky.
Carmen has been warming up out there. Brand new haircut and all. Did you see that haircut he's got?
No.
His wife and hairdresser talked him into one of those Terminator haircuts, you know, with the cruise cover on top. And back. Oh, the guys really give him a ribbon.
Well, she'll probably feel better when he's on the road. Phillies 4, Mets 3, bases loaded, and Carmen will come in and sing the next notes. The Phillies leading the Mets 4-3 with 2 out in the top of the 7th inning. Don Carmen out of Oklahoma City will go head-to-head with Keith Hernandez. Carmen, among other things, allowed the fewest hits per 9 innings in the National League last year, and he set a season high in games, wins, saves, you name it. He had a big year. Among other things, he had a 4-game winning streak. He had 7 saves, and he's trying to still save this one for Carlton because Santana at third belongs to Carlton. Then you have Heap at second and Dykstra on a sacrifice fielder's choice at first.
He's got the tools. He's a fearless young man out there, and he's got a real good fastball.
Phillies 4 runs, 4 hits. The Mets 3 runs, 9 hits. But remember, the Phillies received 7 walks. 1 ball, no strikes. Line to right, coming in and over is Glenn Wilson and makes the play. So Hernandez hit it at the right fielder, and the Mets wind up a buck short. They get 1, they leave 3, and at the end of 6½, Phil's 4, Mets 3.
Old Spice presents Baseball Remembers. Brought to you by unmistakably masculine Old Spice aftershave and cologne. Splash on the feeling. Splash on Old Spice. Bobby Thompson remembers his pennant-winning home run in the 1951 playoffs.
At the time, all it meant to me was that we beat the Dodgers, and I guess we had a rivalry that was second to none. At least they feel that way in New York.
Thompson hits one. Backer throws. There's a left back. It's going to be, I believe, the Giants from the Phillies. The Giants from the Phillies. The Giants from the Phillies.
Well, I can say this. At the time I made that swing, and lucky enough to hit the ball out of the park, and we won. I never thought they'd be talking about it years later.
This is Marv Albert in New York in the Kansas City 8th. This is pinch hitter George Orta driving one to the fence. Buddy Biancalana coming around. Royals lead it 1-0 for Dennis Leonard, making his first start in nearly 3 years. He's retired 17 straight, allowed only 2 hits in the 9th with 1 out. Royals lead it 1-0. Back to Vin and Joe.
That was not an easy play by Wilson. He's looking at his son. Watch it now. It almost knuckled out there, and you could see like an ice cream cone. That big glove really saved it, that webbing.
You know, he made 12 errors last year. That was a major league leading 12 errors. But I think what really happened was Hernandez got over that ball. He hit some topspin, and he really made a pretty good play on what was a sinking line drive. So Bruce Bereni will pick up. Hernandez followed by Lynch. To Mike Schmidt, followed by Glenn Wilson and then John Russell. Schmidt flied to right, single to left, and walked. He has scored a run and driven in 2. And he breaks his bat and hits a dunker into right field. Base hit.
And it's just a little tough to hit right now. Not only is the hitter in the shadow and the pitcher in the sun, but a bit of distraction because the shadow of the flag waving is right in front of the mound. That has to be bothersome.
In looking at Mike Schmidt standing at first, as we look down at the cutout of Sun, the batter is Glenn Wilson. Walked twice, hit into a force play. It's 4-3 Philadelphia, bottom of the 7th. And, of course, the play that the Mets would like to have bat was the at-bat of Tim Tuffle with the bases in the 7th inning, and he fouled out. That's the difference right now. If Tim's able to hit the ball somewhere and pick up the run, the Mets are even. 0-1. Lifted to left center field. Foster and Dykstra. It'll be Dykstra for the catch. And Schmidt holding. One away. The catcher, John Russell, coming up. For Bruce Bereni, this is his first relief appearance since May of '84. He worked 2 innings against the Cubs, and now here he is fighting back against John Russell in a 1-run game. Remember, we told you both teams had pretty poor records in 1-run games last year. Shot into left field. Base hit. Schmidt will stop at second. So Bereni gives up 2 hits. That's 6 hits, 2 against each Mets pitcher. And the batter is Rick Shue, but he's going back in the dugout. We have a minute, Joe, before they come up with a hitter. And all of us in baseball want to send along, not just our best wishes, we want to send along our love to somebody.
Oh, yeah.
Donald Davidson, the biggest little man around, is at Methodist Hospital. And we want him to know that in the midst of all this fireworks, why, we're thinking of him.
He hasn't lost his sense of humor. He's been doing a number on Yogi. Yogi's been his target.
So here's Von Hayes, who was in the opening day lineup in the 11-inning game against Cincinnati. He had a foul ball down on his right calf. He ruptured a blood vessel, a severe contusion, and they said there was no way he could play last night. He came to the ballpark for a 7:35 game at 11 o'clock in the morning. And he spent 8.5 hours getting ready, and by gosh, he played, had 3 hits, hit a home run, and now here he is as a pinch hitter.
He was one of our finalists then in the baseball decathlon, which will be seen on NBC in May, which is a quite interesting measure of the natural ability of a ball player. Tony Gwynn won it, but Hayes lost it in the last event, which was the home run hitting contest.
Quite a talent. 0-1. In that game last year where Philadelphia beat the Mets 26,000-12, I think he hit 2 home runs. And he's got a chance to hurt him again. Von Hayes. So Bereni is in trouble. Then, of course, Mike Schmidt, who's the player at first base defensively and is at the second base right now, he'll finish up the game at third, and Hayes will stay in and play first. The one fellow with bad hamstrings and the other with a bad calf. And remember, Samuel went out hurting his back. 1 out. So Bruce Bereni trying to keep things quiet. In the 8th inning, the Mets will have Gary Carter, Darryl Strawberry, and George Foster against Don Carmen. The Phillies traded 5 players to Cleveland to get Hayes. There's only one of them still with the Indians, Julio Franco. 3-1. Mike Schmidt at second. John Russell at first with 1 out. Bottom of the 7th, 4-3 Philadelphia. He struggled last year, did Hayes, when they put him in the cleanup spot. Trying to clean up now as a pinch hitter. Fouled it away. In fact, when they look back over the year, they found out that last year, in all 10 games where Von Hayes batted cleanup, the Phillies lost all 10. He's off to a great start this year. 3-2 with 1 out. The gimpy-legged runner at second and Mike Schmidt. Let's watch. He doesn't go. Ground ball to the right side. They'll get 1 and the no throw to first. Santana wisely electing to hold on to it. Even on the sore leg, Hayes was motoring pretty well.
Looked like it was going to be an easy double play. The ball is handled cleanly. Russell gets down there in good shape, though. Santana has to, well, he decides right there, I just better hold it. Look how far out of line Russell went. They say if you can touch the bag with any part of your body, you're all right. But Russell made sure that Santana wasn't going to throw that ball.
With Neiman and Bedrosian heating up, both managers ready if they have to make an extra move, and Steve Jeltz walked aboard on a fielder's choice and grounded out. Right. The big inning for Bruce Bereni, trying to keep Philadelphia quiet so the big hitters can come up in the 8th inning and perhaps get him even. One and one. Look at that. Kansas City shut out Toronto 1-0 as Dennis Leonard returns after 3 years. That's a heartwarming story. Standing at first base, Von Hayes. Over at third, Mike Schmidt. Jeltz, struggling, of course, with the bat last year, had only 1 RBI after the All-Star break. He's looking for one now. Now back. And to all you good folks who are watching the Toronto-Kansas City game, and particularly that magnificent effort by Dennis Leonard, welcome to Philadelphia. The Phillies have runners at first and third, leading 4-3 in the 7th, and that's ball 2 to Steve Jeltz. You have another pitcher coming back out on the mound, and that's Bruce Bereni. With Hayes at first, Schmidt at third. Bereni last year had a partially torn right rotator cuff, and now he's trying to come back in relief. 2-2. Ground ball down to shortstop. Santana hangs it for Tuffle, and that's it. No runs, 2 hits, and 2 left. And at the end of the 7th, we got a dandy. Phillies 4, Mets 3.
Andy's back in OB2. Barney Fife and Thelma Lou. Outstanding. When they all return to Mayday.
Right in the fast lane.
Tomorrow.
Next week's game of the week, well, we have a doubleheader of action. The first half, Dodgers versus Braves, Cardinals versus Expos, and the second half, the White Sox and the Red Sox, and the Twins and the California Angels. Next Saturday, 4 p.m. Eastern Time. In the 8th inning, Carmen pitching to Gary Carter, and it's 4-3 Philadelphia. Carter has grounded to third, flied to left, and single to left. And he promptly hits one off the end of the bat, and that's going to fall for a base hit. So Gary Carter is now the tying run as he singles to center. And the batter will be Darryl Strawberry. I don't know, we'd have to look it up how many times Strawberry sacrificed last year. And I'll tell you why. You think about a bunt. You have Von Hayes with a bad leg playing first defensively. Mike Schmidt with tightened hamstrings playing third. So Don Carmen will really have to be cat quick out there if there is a bunt. Right. The old adage, of course, you bunt to tie at home, you swing away on the road. But the corners are hurting defensively here.
And Strawberry's had a tough time.
Right. One to Darryl Strawberry. George Foster on deck. It's been Carlton, Tekulve, and Carmen. It is still Carlton as the pitcher of record.
that was such a great pitch. He had a good swing, but if he would have hit that ball, wouldn't have taken it anywhere. It was just in the perfect spot.
By the way, we finally found the answer. How many times did Darryl Strawberry sacrifice last year? The answer is zip, none. 2-2. Just did lay off that breaking ball. With a full count and the way Strawberry has been swinging, what would you do with Gary Carter? You certainly doesn't figure to have him going.
No, I'd hold him if I were managing. He'd have to hold.
3-2. Carter stays, fouled away. The Mets scored a run in the first and a run in the second on a home run by Ray Knight. Well, the Phillies came back with 2 in the third to get even and 2 more in the fifth to go out in front. The Mets scrambled for 1 in the seventh and left the bases loaded as Keith Hernandez lined out to right. And now the Mets with Strawberry battling Don Carmen and Gary Carter standing at first. April was a very good month for Carmen last year. He was in 9 games without allowing an earned run. 3-2. The third time Strawberry has struck out today.
He just sidearmed him, and he just buzzed one right by him. Look at the concentration. He really had something on that one. He coming sidearm, he backed Strawberry out of there, and Bob Davidson right on top of the play. And Carmen, that was really a good pitch.
So Strawberry has had his big days and, like everybody else, bad days. And today he has struck out 3 times and grounded into a double play. Foster has struck out, singled, and grounded out. He's 1 for 3. Fouled right into the Philadelphia dugout and out again. It's fielded by Von Hayes. One to Foster. The tying run, Gary Carter, held on by Von Hayes. Fastball ran away, just kind of a showcase pitch. 1-1. Foster has driven in 70 or more runs each of the last 11 years. But he's been on the downside, kind of quiet the last couple. His biggest years, of course, followed his trade from San Francisco to Cincinnati for infielder Frank Duffy. He had 52 home runs in 77. Ball 2, 2-1.
He sounds fast.
Yeah.
You can hear that ball go into that mitt.
Boy, and look at it now. There's lattice work of shadows and sunlight on the mound. Home plate is in shade, and he's throwing hard. And it's promptly looped into right for a base hit. Carter will be stopped at second by Buddy Harrelson. Neither ball has been hit hard, but they'll take him. Carter nudged one to center. Foster does the same to right, and it brings up Ray Knight. Reminder, this telecast is presented by authority of Major League Baseball and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form without the express written consent of Major League Baseball. So here is Knight, homered against Carlton, hit back to the box and singled. His single was almost a double. Rick Shue made a good stop on the ball. The Philly infield, Von Hayes, Luis Aguayo, Steve Jelson, Mike Schmidt. Fouled away. 4-3 Philadelphia. We're in the top of the 8th. Good catch upstairs. So the fans are ready.
Yeah, but he cheated. He had a net. Could have caught Moby Dick with that net he's got.
0-1. Carter at second, representing the tying run. Foster at first. 1-1. One out. 4 runs, 6 hits for the Phils. 3 runs, 11 hits for the Mets. On the corner, strike 2. Roger McDowell is heating up in the Mets bullpen. On deck, however, is Rafael Santana. One and 2 tonight. On the hands, fly ball to left. Here comes Reedus, but it's in front of him and bounces over his head. Here comes Carter to score on an AstroTurf double with Foster stopping at third. And we're even 4-4.
It was a case of making a good pitch, and Knight just muscling it over there. Reedus thought he could make the play, got too close, and the ball went over his head. Foster wasn't sure what was going to happen. You see how close Reedus gets in here, and over his head it goes, and that's the way you get burned on the artificial surface. Luckily, he makes the bare hand grab, or Foster scores. He's got no chance once he gets that close, and he really, well, he gloved it. But Foster was stopping at third.
They're going to walk Rafael Santana. This has been some inning. Carter hit a ball off the end of the bat, a dunker to center. Foster hit a ball off the end of the bat, a dunker to right. Ray Knight hits a dunker to left. The Kangaroos for a double. So it is 4-4. The Mets will have the bases loaded in a moment, and Don Carmen has to feel he's the unluckiest guy in town. And by the way, Steve Carlton, 6 1/3 innings, now has nothing to do with the game. When you get down to Bereni's spot, they will send up Howard Johnson. There you can see on the bench the men available to Davy Johnson, so you can manage right along with him. And he is going to Howard Johnson. Technically, Howard Johnson is the third pinch hitter used because Danny Heap batted for Kevin Mitchell. So the base is loaded. 1 out, 8th inning in a 4-4 tie. George Foster is at third, Ray Knight at second, and Rafael Santana at first. Philadelphia bullpen now. Bedrosian stopped. It's up to Carmen. The count to the pinch hitter, Howard Johnson. Boy, was he late on that. Oh, the pitch was already in the mitt. He was just starting to come around.
Well, the way the conditions are now, Carmen would really be doing you a favor to throw you anything but that fastball. He's rearing back and pumping. Got some runs and some base hits, but they have not smoked him.
And it, of course, is a little darker here in Philadelphia now, and the lights are not on. 1-1. Right, another fastball. That's the pitch I think he'll think about all night if he makes out, taking that one. So will Davy Johnson. One and two. So it's pretty tough coming off the bench. And Howard Johnson swinging very late on Don Carmen fastballs. He was really kind of groping for them. And with 2 out, Len Dykstra coming up. Now, I realize 2 outs and the base is loaded. But Dykstra loves to bunt. And remember, you have 2 sore legs. 1 at first and 1 at third in Von Hayes and Mike Schmidt.
And Buddy Harrelson just walked over and told Foster, hey, be alive for anything.
Dykstra has 2 hits and scored a run. Yeah, I wouldn't take one for the club in that spot either.
Yeah, but I've had managers ask you to do that. If he's wild, let him hit you.
Well, one thing, if he had hit him, it would have been where he sat.
Well, it's not where, like Sparky says, pain won't hurt you.
1 ball and no strikes. In there.
You got to like this Dykstra. He went up there trying to get that base on balls, took the first pitch, took at least one strike. Belsky trying to see his left-hander if he can pitch out of it.
1-1. He did try to bunt. 1-2 the count. Yeah, you had to feel in this spot he was going to try. He's 5'10", 160, so you're not looking for the long ball by any means. Both Hayes and Aguayo are back, so it wasn't a bad idea to try and drag. Mike Schmidt is about even with the bag at third. Foster, Knight, and Santana on the lines with 2 out. Fouled away. Four. When the Phillies hit, they'll have the pitcher spot Reedus and Thompson in the bottom of the 8th. Waiting his turn on deck, Tim Tuffle, who already had a shot with the bases loaded but fouled out in the 7th. Ground ball up the middle, base hit. In comes Foster. Here comes Ray Knight. The throw to Russell. He's in there. Over to third, Santana, and it is 6-4 Mets. Little and Dykstra, a clutch base hit, gets a handshake from Bill Robinson.
He just hung right in there and tried to get a piece of the ball and sends it right back up the middle. Carmen has no chance. On the artificial surface, it's through there. And Ray Knight really hustling, headfirst slide across home plate.
So Dykstra at first, Santana at third, and Smiles in the Mets dugout. It is 6-4 New York, and the batter is Tim Tuffle, 0 for 4. Tuffle is grounded out, twice hit into a force play, and then fouled out in the 7th. So the Mets led 2-0, trailed 4-2, and now lead 6-4. Mets doing a lot of hitting, 13 base hits. Fastball, and that's hit to left and deep. Back goes Reedus, and it's off the wall. 1 run is in. Dykstra stops at third, and into second goes Tuffle with a long double. 7-4 Mets. So Santana brings it in. And Carmen now is charged with 4 runs. And with first base open, Keith Hernandez the batter.
And this is when the fire salesman comes to the ballpark because the fans are leaving. They're starting to sell fire again.
Keith Hernandez flied to left, hit into a force play, struck out, and then in the 7th inning with 2 out on the bases loaded against Carmen, hit a bullet but right at Glenn Wilson in right field. Now he comes up with first base open. And the Mets leading 7-4. One off first base. Von Hayes going over to the tarp. It's in the crowd. One and one. The count to Keith Hernandez. It did. So Keith Hernandez hit by the pitch, and that will load the bases. And Felsky going out there because that's going to bring up Gary Carter with the bases loaded. So all Carmen wanted to do, you know, is come inside, and he got it too far inside.
Got him on the elbow. Apparently right, maybe a little bit above the elbow because Keith's not even rubbing it. Tough inning for not only the Phillies, but young Mr. Carmen. He made some good pitches. They dunked him in it, but that's part of the game. And then the big base hit by Dykstra. You got to give that little fella a lot of credit. He battled.
Well, that was the clutch hit of the day up to here.
Sir.
7 runs, 14 hits for the Mets. 4 runs, 6 hits, 2 errors for the Phils. Carlton, Tekulve, and Carmen. The Mets with Fernandez, Lynch, and Bereni. These runs belong to Bereni, so Bruce could be the winning pitcher, and Dave Stewart is going to be brought in from the Philadelphia bullpen. So 7-4 Mets, and we'll be back right after this.
Where I come from, folks, stand.
Couple of scores of other games. A tremendous story in Kansas City as Dennis Leonard returned after a 3-year layoff and shut out Toronto 1-0. Quite a story indeed. The Yankees have one building. Home runs by Dave Winfield. Butch Weiniger with a couple of men on. They're leading Milwaukee 6-2 in the 8th inning. Cleveland with the strength of a home run against Jack Morris, leading Detroit 3-2 in the 7th inning. And Chicago edging Pittsburgh 1-0 in the 4th. Seattle 3, Minnesota 1. They're in the 5th inning. And now we'll get back to the bottom of the 8th inning. Roger McDowell comes out of the Mets bullpen, the sinker baller, who is not very well liked in the city of brotherly love, especially after he hit Tom Foley on the hand on an 0-2 pitch. We talked about that earlier. It occurred on St. Patrick's Day. Greg Gross is the pinch hitter now. And McDowell is immediately warned. Now, in case you weren't with us, let's go back again. On March the 17th, an exhibition game, Roger McDowell hit Tom Foley 0-2 and broke his hand. The next day, Dave Rucker and Don Carmen hit Len Dykstra. You go back to a home plate collision in spring training in '84 between Joe LaFay and John Gibbons. And now McDowell walks in, and the first pitch is a knockdown, and he's warned. Right. It's really a message delivered to Greg Gross when a sinker ball pitcher knocks you down. Little nubber. McDowell has it. 1 away. So Greg Gross as the pinch hitter for Dave Stewart, thrown out by McDowell, and the batter will be Gary Reedus. So this is a thing that started in spring training, and you can bet it's going to keep building and building throughout the year. Reedus 0 for 3, flied to center, struck out twice, and walked. Milt Thompson on deck. That's right. And John Felsky just chews his gum. 1-1. Davy Johnson going to give him one of those who me. Just got away. If you're a hitter and a sinker ball pitcher comes in out of the bullpen and decks you, do you think his control is off? Little fly ball to right. Strawberry in a hurry, and it's going to land, and he smothers it nicely. So Gary Reedus, a bloop single to right. Remember, that's how the Mets' top of the 8th began, with a dunker here and a dunker there.
Sinker ball pitchers can knock you down. I mean, they're equal opportunity knockdown artists.
Where's Milt Thompson? Struck out, hit into a force play, and then single twice. Ray Knight plays up inside the bag at third. Ball 1. The Mets with Hernandez, Tuffle, Santana, and Knight. Foster, Dykstra, and Strawberry, and Carter behind the plate. McDowell is the 4th pitcher. Fernandez, Lynch, Bereni, and Roger. Hit in the air to left, and that's where Foster was hanging out. 2 down, and Luis Aguayo coming up. Aguayo was forced into the game in the 5th inning. The count was 2 balls and no strikes to Juan Samuel. Samuel started to go after an outside fastball. Tried to check his swing and hurt his back. So Aguayo had to inherit the count, and he struck out and flied to right. That makes it a little easier for the Mets, too, looking at Aguayo instead of Samuel right now. And Mike Schmidt on deck. Bouncer up the middle. Base hit. Reedus to second and holding.
This is the situation the Phillies wanted.
So Mike Schmidt will represent the tying run as he comes up with 2 out and Roger McDowell on the mound. Mike Schmidt flied to right, single to left, walked in the 5th, and single to right. He has driven in 2 and scored 1. Started the day at first base, finishing up at 3rd.
I think Gary was crossed up a couple times, Carter, so he went out to the mound just to make sure that he and McDowell are together on what signals they're going to use with that man on at second base.
7-4 in favor of the Mets. But the Phils are in that ideal spot. The big guys up there representing the tying run. McDowell last year tied Jesse Orozco for the club lead in saves. He had 17. Big chopper foul. 0-1.
You might think with that center field shot that Mike Schmidt is a long ways from home plate. And stance he's got, but when he strides into that ball, and he can drive it to the right center field slot just as well as he can in left center field.
Well, against a sinker ball pitcher, certainly Aguayo did the right thing, trying to go up the middle with him.
There was a good sinker.
Interestingly, last year, McDowell picked up his first major league save, relieving Sid Fernandez against Philadelphia. Gary Reedus at second, Luis Aguayo at first, 2 out in the 8th, 7-4 Mets. And he hits him on the hands, and it's a fly ball to Strawberry. So the chance is gone for Philadelphia. They leave 2 as Schmidt flies to right, and at the end of 8, 7-4 Mets. The Major League Baseball game of the week has been brought to you by Ford and your local Ford dealer. Have you driven a Ford lately? By Miller Beer. Miller made the American way since 1855. By Castrol, the motor oil engineered for smaller cars. And by IBM and the growing family of IBM personal computers. Recognize that smiling face? Boy, he was a big man in 2 cities. He's the tail of 2 cities. And for the New York Mets, look at those numbers. He saved 85 for New York, 94 for Philadelphia. Tug McGraw. Steve Bedrosian will become the 5th pitcher for Philadelphia. Bedrock, as they call him. And if he sticks to his pattern of years gone by, underneath that Phillies shirt is a Boston Celtics t-shirt. Bedrock, who throws hard, so if there's any retaliation, and I doubt it, but he would be a mean man to have where you owe him one.
He would be a good retaliator.
I would not want it. And Darryl Strawberry, George Foster, and Ray Knight will be coming up. So Larry Anderson and Dave Rucker are left in the pen, neither man throwing. Strawberry, if nothing else, happy to see a right-hander. And promptly lifts it into shallow right field. Aguayo goes out. Wilson comes in. Wilson. So Strawberry 0 for 5. Let's go to Marv Albert and get ourselves an update.
All right, Vin, in Oakland with umpire Don Denkinger behind the plate. Joaquin Andujar in his debut for the Oakland A's. It was Denkinger who ejected a raging Andujar in the World Series last October. They're just underway. Back to Vin and Joe.
Well, you know, Joaquin Andujar has certainly learned 3 of the most important words in the English language. When somebody asked him about Denkinger being the plate umpire, he said, quote, "He's the boss." Strike to Foster. 1 ball, 1 strike. 1 out, top of the 9th. 7-4 Mets. After Foster comes Ray Knight. Oh, boy. Huh? You're throwing that 90 stuff in the shadows?
I tell you, Carmen got raked today, but I tell you, with Bedrosian and Carmen, these fellas have a pretty good bullpen.
Outstanding. 2-2. Dave Johnson and Mel Stottlemyre have seen the Mets blow a 2-0 lead and then fight their way back to a 7-4 lead in the 9th. That's going to be hit late in the air down the right field line. A trio of Phils. Von Hayes. Nice play. Don't forget, tennis follows immediately after the game. Family Circle Cup tennis from Hilton Head. Ray Knight has a home run, a single, and a double. So he's 3 for 4, 2 RBIs, and he has scored 3. The last time Ray Knight scored 3 runs in a game, he had to go back to 1982. The count to Ray Knight. Keith Hernandez, who was hit by a pitch, seems healthy and happy in the dugout. Hernandez hit by the pitch, and then Roger McDowell came in and flattened Greg Gross, and everything has been quiet since. 0-2. Dwight Gooden. We're talking about having somebody owe you a knockdown pitch. that would really be scary.
Yes it would.
0-2 the count. Phillies have Wilson, Russell, and Hayes in the bottom of the 9th. 1-2. Remember, the pitcher of record to lose Don Carmen and to win Bruce Bereni. And for Bereni, that would be something. Remember, we told you his relief appearance the last time was in May 2 years ago, and he stands to be the winner today. Maybe. Two and 2 to Ray. Rafael Santana on deck. Busted bat and a comebacker. Sounded like a stalk of celery, and Hayes dropped it but recovered. And Knight is out 1-3. And at the end of 8.5 innings, the Mets 7, the Phillies 4. Just take a second look at that.
Looked like a routine play, but whoops, look at here, a little adventure. That ball was all over him.
Try to catch a white rat.
Hit an air pocket.
So it's 7-4. We'll be going to the bottom of the 9th inning, but first we'll have an update.
All right, Ben, this is Marv Albert in New York in the Family Circle Cup Women's Tennis Tournament coming up here at NBC. Defending champ Chris Evert Lloyd has taken the first game of the first set over Stephanie Rahe. We'll be going live to tennis following the Mets and Phils. Let's return to Vin Scully.
Well, this has been along with Joe Garagiola. Hope you're opening and enjoying our opening game festivity here at Veterans Stadium, Philadelphia. It's been quite a ball game.
It has been a good ball game, and I think it's answered a couple questions. The scoreboard not good for Philly fans, but what Carlton did certainly is a bright spot.
And how? Well, a story with the executive producer of NBC Sports, Michael Weissman, the coordinating producer of NBC's baseball coverage, and the director of today's game, Harry Coyle. The telecast of today's game of the week, produced by George Finkel. Pre-game produced by Les Dennis. Pre-game directed by Mary Buda Lamusio. Technical directors Steven Semenio and Sal Nagita. We have a moment, and this week's NBC Miller Lite player of the game is Len Dykstra, whose key single up the middle broke the game open. Miller Lite is happy to present a check for $1,000 in the name of Len Dykstra to help fight multiple sclerosis. He went 3 for 4, had 2 RBIs and a run scored. He also had a stolen base and pretty well made life miserable for the Phils today. Now the Phillies' last shot as we have another look at Len. Glenn Wilson, John Russell, and Von Hayes against Roger McDowell. Some left-handed bats in the dugout for John Felski, Joe LaFay, Darren Dalton.
You know, the gun tells you a lot, the radar gun, but on that center field shot with McDowell throwing, I know he throws hard, but you can see that ball really moving. He's got good action.
1-1. Fernandez, Lynch, Bereni, and McDowell. Bereni stands to win. Carlton, Tekulve, Carmen, Stewart, and Bedrosian. Carmen stands to lose. Two and two.
Whoa.
Wilson has walked twice, hit into a force play, and flied to center. Glenn 0 for 2.
Gary took that off the left knee, shin guard. That's why Bob Brenly was right, that after a season's over, a catcher feels like a used car.
Yeah, a badly used car. Mistreated.
Not by the little old lady who drives it to the library once a week.
Of course, he had arthroscopic surgery on a knee October 9. Ground ball hard right through Hernandez's legs and on out into right field. Keith playing the ball to come up, and it stayed down.
He doesn't do that very often. That's really news.
And the price of gold has gone down a little bit, too. He's a Gold Glove last year. So Wilson is aboard on the error, and John Russell the batter. John Russell popped up, walked, single to left in the 5th inning, and single to left again in the 7th. He singled to left in the 5th inning against Ed Lynch, and then singled against Bereni. 1 ball and no strikes. Seven runs, 14 hits for the Mets. 4 runs, 8 hits for the Phils. We've had 1 home run by Ray Knight. The Phils have not had an extra base hit.
They did get 7 base on balls, so they've had a lot of base runners.
A lot of opportunities. It's hand blowing time, and they're allowing him to go to his mouth because of the weather. Although it hadn't been bad, it was around 60. So John Russell is wrapped up and put away. 1 down. Von Hayes, who didn't figure to play and was dropped into the game as a pinch hitter in the 7th inning for Rick Shue. Von hit into a force play and then stayed in. Here's Hayes with 1 out, Wilson at first, and Steve Jeltz, the switch hitter, on deck. Ball 1. Jesse Orozco throwing in the Mets pen, but the Phillies pen is quiet. Phillies have to look ahead to thinking about hitting for Bedrosian, and the Mets have to look at those left-handed bats, Joe LaFay and Darren Dalton. 2 balls, no strikes. Hayes protecting that right leg as best he can with a little shin guard, and it's also carefully wrapped in there. 2-1. There you can see the protection. And foul ball in Cincinnati really ate him up. Two and one. And now McDowell behind 3-1.
Got that one up. He's flirting with danger when he gets that ball up there.
The on-deck hitter, of course, could represent the tying run if Hayes gets aboard. 3-1. And he's going to be aboard. So instead of 2 out and a runner at first, because of the error by Hernandez and now a walk, the Phillies have 1 out, 2 on, and Steve Jeltz at the plate. Joe LaFay comes out on deck to hit for Bedrosian. Jeltz has walked, aboard on a fielder's choice, grounded to third, and hit into a force play as you look at LaFay. So 2 on, 1 out in the 9th. And Davy Johnson twisting and turning a little bit here. Strike, sinker. Belsky, who saw his ball club get out in front 4-2, then letting it get away. Now trying to hope that his club will come back. Bottom of the 9th. 1-1. Two on. Wilson at second and Hayes at first. 1 out. Fouled away. Trying to keep the Phils above water here. 1 out in the 9th inning. High chopper up along first, foul. So he's still there. 1 ball and 2 strikes.
See, when he keeps that ball in that spot, he's just extra tough because you can't get under that ball at all.
The Phillies, because of all the walks plus the 8 hits, they've had 16 men come up with runners in scoring position today. And they have only cashed in 2 for 13. And there were 3 others who walked. But that's not very productive.
It's the kind of stats you usually get in spring training when you're playing Clearwater in the B game.
1-2. He hits a sinker in the gap to right center field, and that's going to go to the wall. In comes Wilson. In comes Hayes. And Jeltz has himself 3. And it is 7-6 Mets.
Well, all the time he spent in that batting cage learning how to switch hit really pays off with that base hit. A tough base hit in a tough spot.
Left-handed stroke of Steve Jeltz.
And it's a good one. He got it up, belt high, and he just went with it. He had missed with the pitch earlier, and anytime the sinker baller gets that ball belt high, that's considered high. Davy Johnson is coming out, but he wants to have a say with the umpire before he gets there.
Now, one problem that Davy Johnson has with the tying run at third and 1 out, Joe LaFay, who's in the on-deck circle, has a career batting average of .338 against Mets pitching. That's going to be off of McDowell. Jesse Orozco will be brought in. But the question then will be, will LeFay hit against Orozco? And with a runner at third and one out, we'll find out after this. The tying run is 90 feet away in Philadelphia in the person of Steve Jeltz, who just tripled in two in an inning that started where Gold Glove Keith Hernandez had a ball go right through his leg. The Mets are now leading 7-6, and the Mets have had to make a lot of changes. First of all, Tim Tuffle, who had been at second base, moves over to finish up at third for Ray Knight. At second base is Wally Backman. The new pitcher is Jesse Orozco, and as soon as Davy Johnson brought in the left-hander Orozco, immediately Felsky counters, and Gary Maddox bats for Joe LeFay. And the infield is up. So Gary Maddox with one out, a runner at third, 7-6 Mets, bottom of the ninth. At the start of the game. Now, they were talking about they needed Milt Thompson's glove, and it seemed like heresy in the home of Gary Maddox after all the 8 Gold Gloves he's picked up. And now the game ends where they need Maddox bat. Foul back. So Orozco comes in and immediately asserts himself and has an 0-2 count on Gary Maddox. Orozco with 17 saves last year, along with Roger McDowell. There was some question about his arm in spring training, but he evidently has proven that he is good enough to come in here and try and keep Steve Jeltz away with one out in the bottom of the ninth. 7-6 Mets. To the count. Busted bat foul, I believe. Yep, he'll have to get another. That's the umpteenth bat I've heard crack today.
And on a day like today, that really puts those bees into your hands. You crack that bat. That was a breaking ball right in on the belt buckle, a real good spot.
Dave Rucker and Larry Anderson are throwing in the Philadelphia bullpen. Now that Maddox is hitting for LeFay, who is hitting for Bedrosian. Randy Neiman is not throwing in the Mets pen. Still 0-2 to Gary Maddox. Sinker, and it's going to be hit by the drawn-in infield to tie up the game.
Infield playing in. Santana just can't get it as Maddox just wants to put it in play. Try to knock the ball down at least. No way. So we're tied up.
And of course for Orozco to give up the game-tying base hit with the count 0-2. And Gary Maddox, after getting his bat broken, talking to Keith Hernandez, who committed the big error. And now we go to the top of the order.
And a big base on balls in there.
And how? So here's Gary Reedus. Flied to center and walked, struck out twice and singled. Ball one. So the Mets had a 4-run 8th to take the lead. The Phillies have a 3-run 9th to tie it up. And Davy Johnson and Mel Stottlemyre, John Felsky on the other side, wearing each other out. On the corner, 1-1. Mets won last night 9-7, and it's 7-all today. On deck, Milt Thompson. Gary Maddox standing at first. Stole 26 bases last year. He used to run a lot. Stole as many as 33, but those were years ago. Ground ball, foul. Foul ball. They'll make a play, but it won't count.
I tell you, that was quite a play that Tuffle made at third base. You can't umpire that play. You got to make it and let the umpire call it. He backhanded it nicely. Look at this.
And remember, he's just moved over to that position. He's been playing second base all day. Of course, that's one thing Davy Johnson is quite outspoken about. He wants a 25-man roster because he's a platoon manager. He has platooning personnel, and he feels the Cardinals have a decided edge if you hold at 24. 1-2 to Gary Reedus. Remember, there's only one out. And the count now 2-2. The only out was John Russell, who struck out. He had Wilson hit a ground ball through Hernandez's legs. The one-out walk to Hayes, the triple by Jeltz, and the single by Maddox. 2-2 to Gary Reedus. He laid off that sinker, ball 3. Well, now you've seen Reedus strike out twice. If you're John Felsky, are you going to let Maddox go 3-2 and play run and hit?
Definitely. Got to run him. Got to run him. Got to start him. Kickstart that body and let him go.
On deck, Milt Thompson. Maddox goes, and it's foul back.
He didn't have very good jump.
Well, he didn't want to be picked off, so with that left-hander eyeballing him, play a little bit on the side of caution, I guess.
Sir Roscoe put a pretty good move on him, and should Reedus strike out, you're going to have yourself a strike him out, throw him out.
So a full count to Gary Reedus with a potential winning run in Gary Maddox at first base, and one out in a 7-7 tie, bottom of the 9th. Not a bad opening act.
Oh, man.
For game 1 of the game of the week. Maddox goes, curveball on the fists, foul back. I think that thing hit him on the hands and it hurt a little bit. Gary wasn't quite ready to hit.
It's not the best feeling in the world.
No.
Like about 20 of those, remember those buzzers you used to handshake with?
Yeah, right. Maddox being cautious and at the same time trying to get going. And there's ball 4. They're going to throw down to second, but it doesn't count. That's a bad play. And Carter evidently didn't hear the plate umpire. If he throws that ball into center field thinking it was strike 3, he'd messed up the whole game.
Yes, but if it's called strike, you don't throw it. A spot like that with his kind of arm, it would be in play all right.
Oh, boy, what a mess.
You'd always ask the umpire to give you a quick call, give you a loud call if he could.
The runners at first and second, one out in the 9th, 7-7 tie. Milt Thompson and Luis Aguayo on deck. Milt Thompson struck out, hit into a force play. Had a bunt single, then single to center and fly to left. So he's 2 for 5, scored 2. And he's up there now trying to be a winner. Gary Maddox at second, Gary Reedus at first. Strike. Thompson is not the ideal man for John Felsty. In his career going into this game, he had only 3 hits in 33 at-bats against left-hand pitching. Until he got his bunt single, it was 3 for 35. Fouled away. For the Phils, Milt Thompson now represents the 19th man to come up with runners in scoring position. 19. So far, just counting 3 walks, the others have gone 4 for 15. So they've sure had their chances. 0-2. One and 2. 1 out. Bottom of the 9th. A 7-7 tie. And Jesse Orozco trying to stop the bleeding here at Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia. And that punches out and rings up Milt Thompson. With 2 out, Luis Aguayo will be the batter. Take another look at that pitch, Joe.
He may have chased a bad ball, but with 2 strikes and the game on the line, you can't be that particular. You have to be aggressive. The ball was a good fastball. Seemed to have a good cut at it. Blew it right by him.
So Luis Aguayo. He is 1 for 3 today. That was a single in the 8th inning. Aguayo had to finish up for Juan Samuel, who hurt his back trying to check a swing in the 5th inning. And now Aguayo with a chance to play the part of the hero. And he hits a pop fly back of first base to Hernandez, and we're going into extra innings. The Phillies get off the deck for 3, sparked by the error, and at the end of 9, a 7-7 tie. Family Circle Cup Tennis from Hilton Head, South Carolina, upcoming when this one is over. But we got a dandy here in the 10th inning, a 7-7 tie. Now here's left. The Mets have Tim Corcoran and Barry Lyons. The Phillies have only Darren Daulton on the bench.
That is really weird when you look at it. That's all that's left.
That's all that's left.
It's almost like, hey, get those guys that played in the morning game.
Rafael Santana will start it off. Then Wally Backman. Remember, Backman, who's playing second base, is batting 9th. Ball 1. The Phillies bullpen last year had 26 losses. They had 29 blown leads, and they had 17 blown saves. So that was the area that they felt really had to be built up. One reason why they got Steve Bedrosian. Well, now they have used Tekulve, Carmen, Stewart, Bedrosian, and now Rucker, following the starter, Steve Carlin. Right. Seven runs, 14 hits for the Mets. 7 runs, 10 hits for the Phils. Ground foul, and he'll check the bat. And he'll have to get another. That thing had a crack in it.
The termites are getting them today.
Amazing.
Termites in the bat rack.
The Phillies have committed 2 errors, and the Mets have committed 1, and the Mets error was a huge one. The ground ball that Glenn Wilson hit that went right through the legs of Gold Glove first baseman Keith Hernandez. If Hernandez, and of course it doesn't work that way, but if Hernandez makes the play, when Thompson strikes out, the inning would have been over. However, the Phils still would have been a buck short. Instead, we're in the 10th inning. 2-2. We told you who would be available for pinch hitting in the bullpens. Right-hander Larry Anderson for the Phils, left-hander Randy Neiman for the Mets. And that's it. Fouled away. Hayes, Aguayo, Jeltz, and Schmidt, Reedus, Thompson, and Wilson in the outfield. John Russell going all the way behind the plate. 2-2. Ground ball to short. So Jeltz takes care of that one. 1 out in the 10th, and Wally Backman coming up. You know, it's interesting to show you just how close a season can get. Last year, after 159 games, when the Cardinals had virtually won the division, the Cardinals were 2 games ahead of the Mets. At that stage, after 159 games, the Cardinals and the Mets had the identical records against every other team in the National League. The difference was that the Cardinals had beaten the Mets 10 times to the Mets 8. Those 2 games were the difference. That's how finally they cut it. The Mets wound up winning 98 games.
That's a pretty good year.
And still finished second. So it's so early it could almost be forgotten, but this is a big game. 2-0. 3-0. Wally Backman, interestingly enough, has the greatest differential, I think, against any player in the league. Look at those numbers. .200 points, and he's against a left-hander. But he has the count his way, 3-0. In there, 3-1. You know, there's another feeling. You follow one club all year, as they do in New York, following the Mets, and the club finishes second. Ball 4. And you say, well, if you finish second in the division with just a little help, you can finish first the next year. But if you throw out the strike year, 81, and the year that followed, if you just get rid of those, since 1969, only 1/3 of the teams that finished second won the next year. So it's not that easy to improve from second to first at all. It's a sobering thought, in fact.
They got quite a combination on with Backman at first and Dykstra, who we know how he can handle a bat. They can do a lot of things. And I'll tell you, with Backman on there, and there's 1 out, if Schmidt comes in too close on a possible play, he'll go from first to third.
Backman last year stole 30 bases, 32 the year before that. He just hung in there too long. No, that was not a knockdown pitch.
No way. No. That wasn't even close. I don't blame him for getting down. I mean, it's easy enough to say here, but it was not that close. It was almost a strike.
1-0 the count. He kept looking.
He just was hanging in there. Yep. Is what he was doing.
Two 2-0. So Russell out to talk to Rucker with Backman at first.
Backman on a 3-1 count was taking all away, making Rucker throw strikes, and you can see there's Backman. Dykstra's taking a good look at Buddy Harrelson. Get a base on balls here, and these Phillies are really asking for it.
2-0 the count to Wally Backman. After Backman walked, 2-0 the count to Dykstra, and after Dykstra comes Tim Tuffle. 3-0. Larry Anderson gets up down in the Philadelphia bullpen. He's the only pitcher left to get up. Ball 4. So with 1 out, Rucker walks 2. There's Anderson. And John Felsky has dispatched Claude Osteen out to the mound. So the pitching coach is going out. The batter will be Tuffle, followed by Hernandez.
Got to throw strikes. You can't be thinking, you have to be throwing, and you have to be throwing strikes. And that's all Osteen is telling them is, hey, you don't have that big a margin of error. Don't be throwing in spots. Put something on and give it some strikes.
So Dave Rucker, you might remember, was with Detroit for a while, then moved over to St. Louis and came to the Phils. He was acquired from St. Louis for Ivan DeJesus and Bill Campbell.
One of the other things you warn a pitcher in a spot like this is don't ease up to throw a strike, because it's not guaranteed that the hitter's going to be taking that first pitch. You're going to have to keep good stuff on it.
Tuffle ripped a long double off the left field wall in the 8th inning to drive into. He's 1 for 5. 2 on, 1 out in the 10th. And it almost hit him. It goes to the backstop, and the runners move up. And now Rucker is really in a mess. If he puts Tuffle on with 1 out, he then has to pitch to Hernandez.
Russell got a glove on it, but obviously Rucker missed the target by so much. He's on the outside part of the plate. You can see how far inside. Russell doesn't move. It goes off his glove, and the big thing about that is the possibility of double play is gone. Now you got to pull your infield in. Percentages really swing with the hitter.
Ball 2. I say what has happened to him. He's made 17 pitches and 13 balls. I mean, he hasn't been in the neighborhood of the strike zone. 2-0. Ball 3.
Well, he's going to have to throw 2 strikes here.
So 3-0 the count to Tim Tuffle. Polsky just said, is he ready? So he's talking about Larry Anderson down in the bullpen. And the 3-0 pitch, they let him swing.
Oh, I don't believe that.
I don't either.
I do not believe that.
That's harder to believe than Ted Williams smelling the burnt wood when he fouled the ball off.
Tuffle, I could see Hernandez maybe.
Whew. So Dave Johnson rolling the dice, and Tuffle fouled it off. And there's ball 4. So the bases are loaded with 1 out, and the man who made the error that ignited the bottom of the 9th is now trying to burn down the top of the 10th. Keith Hernandez. Keith has flied to left, hit into a force play, struck out, lined out to right with the bases loaded, and he's been hit by a pitch. Rucker has only thrown 5 strikes, and he's made 20 pitches. So here's Hernandez. He finds Tuffle at first, Dykstra at second, and Bachman at third. 1 out, 7-7 in the 10th. Strike. And on deck, Gary Carter. Anderson is probably getting ready in the pen, I would guess, to go head-to-head with Carter. 0-1.
Chased the bad one that time. He had made up his mind to swing, but that was way out in the strike zone. Unless he's having real difficulty picking that ball up.
Which could be at this hour. It's almost 5 o'clock local time, Philadelphia. The lights are on now, but they're not helping that much. Time call. To Hernandez with the bases loaded, 1 out in the 10th, a 7-7 tie. And there's one fouled off to the left and out of play. Bases loaded, Bachman, Dykstra, and Tuffle. Reading left to right. Fouled away off third, out of play. Still 0-2. The Mets trying to get a bundle in the top of the 10th. In the bottom of the 10th, the Phils are due to send up Mike Schmidt, Glenn Wilson, and John Russell. And that would be against left-hander Jesse Orozco. 0-2. Ball 1. down to shortstop. Jeltz takes it to his second baseman. The throw is double play. And the Phillies are out of the inning. And at the end of 9 1/2, 7-7. Well, I guess you could say the ball game got us in the family way. We went right through tennis. Tomorrow on NBC Sports World, Part 2 of the Superstars. Mark Gastineau of the Jets, Willie Gault of the Super Bowl champion Bears, Vince Coleman of the Cardinals. Watch the Stars tomorrow at 4 on NBC Sports World and tennis.
How about Marv Alpert on his first weekend, huh? He's going to think it's always like this. Hang in there, Marv.
Randy Neiman, who was a non-roster player and made the ball club. Last year, he went to spring training with the Chicago White Sox, was dealt to the Mets and assigned to Tidewater, and now here he is. He was in 4 games last year for New York. Randy will be pitching to Mike Schmidt. Right.
No
Schmidt, Wilson, Russell.
No sweatshirt. A little chilly for no sweatshirt. But
Carmen was that way, too.
I didn't notice him.
Yeah. 0-1. A line drive into left field for a base hit. Foster plays it on the hop, and so for the umpteenth time, we have the potential either tiebreaker or winning run on base. And the batter is Glenn Wilson, followed by John Russell and Vaughn Hayes. Wilson has walked 3 times today, and he's 0 for 3. And he hits a comebacker. Neiman to his shortstop, Santana back to Hernandez. So they didn't want to bunt.
Well, I guess he figured if he bunted Wilson, he'd lose his bat. They'd walk Russell, lose his bat, and it'd be up to Hayes.
That wouldn't be too bad a deal, would it?
No, that certainly wouldn't. I think that I would go in the clubhouse and say, can you spell bunt?
Yeah.
B-U-N-T. They forgot about it. We're going to find the bunt on the side of a milk carton.
Russell has struck out twice, had 2 hits and a walk, and popped up. 0-1.
I really don't understand that.
No. And that's a ground ball to the right side. Bachman is there. There you go. 12 innings are in the books, just like that. And at the end of 12, the Mets 7 and the Phils 7. And we'll be right back after these messages from your local station. How about that shot of the Phillies dugout?
Let me ask you a question. If you saw that as an ad, would you give money for a fundraiser? That is really a disaster area. I'd give $1 anonymously.
I'm looking for Darren Dahlman, but he had been in the bullpen, then came into the dugout. The only man we saw in there was Coach Del Unser. And of course, Unser at one time in his career played for the Mets. Well, here we go to the 13th. Carter, Strawberry, and Foster. And remember tomorrow, Graff and Everett on the Family Cup tennis. Gary Carter has 2 base hits and a walk. Fouled away.
Talk about a picture worth 1,000 words. That Phillies bench really told a story.
We're in the 13th inning of a 7-7 tie. Larry Anderson is the 7th Philadelphia pitcher. Line to left field, coming up after hesitating and grabbing it is Gary Reedus. So Carter lines to left, and Darryl Strawberry the batter. Now remember what a miserable day he's had. He is 0 for 6. with 3 strikeouts and 2 double plays. And now he has a shot at a right-hand pitcher. Ball 1. On deck, George Foster. And he hits it the other way, down the line, foul and out of play. Darrell trying to heel with this at bat. 2 balls and 1 strike. 3-1. Boy, would he love to get a pitch to drive. Chase the whole bad day. Instead, it's ball 4.
No, just for the sake of giving them a boost, the umpires have really been out for a long time when you stop to think that they do not go and sit on a bench between innings.
And you know, Bob Davidson behind the plate has had to call 18 walks today, and he hasn't had a gripe. Not one.
That's right. And he's had a knockdown warning.
Yep.
He's had some day.
So here's Foster. Big chopper to the hole. Tough play for Jeltz. He hurries it, and it's just in time. Boy, was that close to get Darryl Strawberry. Excellent play by Steve Jeltz because he had to back up to get a hop.
He backs up, braces himself right here, and he gets something on this throw. Bruce Fleming, the umpire at second base, it was close, but he was decisive. Look at Bruce right there. He got something on that throw, which was surprising.
Excellent play by Steve Jeltz. So Randy Neiman, who is hitting in the number 7 slot, coming up. He has had 24 at-bats in his big league career and 6 hits.
It's pretty good.
But I'm not sure the last time he swung the bat. I think it's been a while.
I think the way he's swinging in that batter's box is missionary country to him.
Yeah, I think it's been a while. Probably 1983. It's a pretty good guess to figure the last time he swung a bat was over 3 years ago.
That's a pretty good slump.
1
for
and 2.
84, 0 for 85, and 0 for 86.
Talking for slump, Darryl Strawberry, sitting in the corner, has gone from 333 to 167. That's a beating for your average. Fisted in the air foul, and Mike Schmidt is there, and that's the top of the 13th. The Mets leave a man. 12 and a half, 7-7. Well, trying to give equal time, we saw that rather desolate area in the Philadelphia dugout. It's somewhat of a wasteland in the Mets dugout as they burned up their players. And this group of numbers might give you an idea of just what has transpired here today. The Mets have left 15. The Phillies have left 17. There have been, among other things, wild pitch and a stolen base. And we go on into the bottom of the 13th with Von Hayes. Strike.
And the telling thing on that graphic was so far.
So far.
Far. Who knows what lurks?
0-1. Hayes will be followed by Jeltz and then Gary Maddox. One and one. Randy Neiman, the 6th Mets pitcher. The Phillies used 7 pitchers. 1-2. The Mets led way back when 2-0. The Phillies tied it, went ahead 4-2. Eventually, it was 7-4 Mets, and the Phillies got 3 in the 9th inning to tie it. And here we are now in the bottom of the 13th. Fouled away. So after a little 9-7 Jim they played last night, they're wearing each other out today, and it has taken us 4 hours and 31 minutes to get here, the bottom of the 13th. Little nubber. One away. Neiman takes care of Von Hayes. Steve Jeltz, who has had the key hit coming up. It was Jeltz's triple in the 9th inning that knocked in 2, and then he represented the tying run and scored on a base hit by Gary Maddox. Jeltz has handled himself very well at shortstop. 4-1. Jeltz made a particularly big play on what appeared to be a bad hop on the ground ball hit by Hernandez in the 10th, and Aguayo was able to turn it and get the double play from it. Line drive, base hit. So Jeltz comes up with a single, his second hit plus 2 walks today, and the batter will be Gary Maddox. And Gary Carter, I don't know whether he got hit by the bat or not, but evidently his left arm around the elbow.
I think that's what happened,
Yeah.
Ben. Looked that way.
And he's definitely in pain. That wasn't any glancing blow. See if we can see it. Keep an eye on the bat.
Right there.
Yeah, got him.
Yeah,
got him. The bat got him, all right.
He let loose of the bat, and the bat landed right on his elbow. There are very few hitters who turn that bat loose like that. Most of them hold on to it. He turned it loose and got him right on the elbow.
And I think at this hour, after a long day, and it has cooled off now as the sun starts to get down, any blow hurts even more so. Take another look just for sure. But it's pretty obvious now. The bat hit Gary Carter on the left elbow. Around.
And there it goes. Right there.
It's behind him, and it's going to catch him.
Caught him.
So the batter is Gary Maddox, who batted for Joe Lefebvre in the 9th inning and has had to stay in the game, and here he is in the 13th. On deck, Gary Reedus. And he hits a fly ball to right center. Dykstra moving over to handle it, and Jeltz back to first. And Gary Reedus, who has 1 hit, and that was in the 8th inning. He has struck out twice, walked, and hit a couple of fly balls. It has been a long day for him in an extra inning game like this to be the leadoff man. And have only gotten on base twice makes it difficult. Bottom of the 13th, 7 runs, 16 hits for the Mets, 7 runs, 13 hits for the Phils.
This is his 8th time at bat. There are some guys don't bat 8 times in the season.
8 times. Fouled off, 1-2. Charlie Hudson is up again in the Phillies bullpen. Remember, after Reedus, the pitcher, Larry Anderson. So it might be, although Felsky tried to avoid it earlier, he's still going to have to use his left-handed hitter Darren Dalton and against a left-hander. He tried to avoid doing that when Jesse Orozco was pitching. Two and two. Fernandez, Lynch, Bereni, McDowell, Orozco, and Neiman. Carlton, Tekulve, Carmen, Stewart, Bedrosian, Rucker, and Anderson. There goes the runner, ball 3, and the throw in the dirt, and he's in there.
He took him for granted. Neiman took the base runner, Jeltz, for granted, and Steve just took off.
So Gary Reedus now has a chance to win it.
You could see how long it took him to deliver that ball. Jeltz is in easily.
And now they're going to walk Reedus with 2 out. It's ruled an intentional walk. That is the 12th walk given up to the Phils, and Darren Dalton will now come up. So Dave Johnson saw Fernandez walk 7. He has all told given up 12, and Dalton will come up and hit for Larry Anderson. And this does it. Outside of pitchers, no one else available.
It's turned out to be one of those games that you want to go up to the pitcher and say, here's the keys, you lock up and turn out the lights.
This is one of those games where they say the game is never over till the last man is out. This game is never over till the last man. They're just going to burn them all up. Mike Schmidt, along with his thoughts, hasn't really had many chances to decide the game because, among other things, Schmidt led off in the 7th, led off in the 10th, led off in the 12th. He had one chance in the 8th inning, and he flied out. So Darren Dalton hitting for Larry Anderson in a 7-7 tie, bottom of the 13th inning. Has had shoulder problems. He'd like to keep it healthy for a full year for the first time since 1982. Ball 2. Dalton last night unloaded a 3-run home run against the Mets. Jeltz is the man. He's the winning run at second base. Oh, and it is a wild pitch. And the bases will be loaded. Didn't make much difference. It was ball 4 anyway. Home plate was guarded by Neiman and also Tuffle.
Tried to put a little extra on it and overthrew the ball, and Carter just couldn't get a glove on it enough to hold it. Slowed it down. Man, it didn't make any difference.
Not really.
Here we are again.
But the bases are loaded with 2 out in the 13th inning of a 7-7 tie. And John Felsky, who saw his team down 7-4 in the bottom of the 9th to tie it up, now sees his team within an eyelash away of winning it. Aguayo has 1 hit in 5 at-bats. And Carter says, hold everything. Aguayo came into the game when Juan Samuel hurt his back in the 5th inning. All you got to do is throw the ball over the plate. That's exactly what Gary Carter said to him.
Forget the man at second base. Forget the base runners. Get that batter. Throw the ball over the plate. You got to throw a strike.
Jeltz at third, and of course he's the winning run. You have Reedus at second and Dahlin at first, but Jeltz is the man. 1 ball and no strikes. In there. The Phillies have already left 17 men on base. Ball 2.
Gary must be having some trouble behind that plate. He boxed the last 2 that were thrown.
Long day for both John Russell and Gary Carter. 2-1. Ball 3. With all the walks we have had today, it would be fitting and proper, I guess, if the game was decided on a walk. 3-1. In there.
Well, if you wanted to find pressure, if you wanted to take a picture, here it is.
Bases loaded, 2 out, 3-2, 13th inning, the ball game on the line. 22,372 making noise. Check swing, a little roller to Backman. We go to the 14th, and the Phillies have left 20 men on base. We'll see you in a little bit, huh?
Hopefully.
What a little swing in such a big moment.
Excuse me.
43 in the books. Ground ball to the second baseman, and we go to the 14th inning of a 7-7 tie. We can change our facts again. Look at the left on base.
35. 20 walks. 28 base hits. 4 hours and 45 minutes.
And here we go in the 14th. It'll be Rafael Santana, Wally Backman, and Len Dykstra. Santana has had 1 hit today, plus a walk. That's Charlie Hudson out there. Hudson becomes the 8th pitcher. Right. In there. So Charlie Hudson. Been a long wait in the pen. And here he is. Fouled away. The Phillies like Shane Rawley, and they have to be happy now with Steve Carlton. They are hoping that somehow Charlie Hudson will come back to what he was and make the starting rotation. Making pitches like that, he's got a chance.
It's a breaking ball. It's out of the strike zone. Santana, whoops. I'll tell you, the last 2 swings we've seen, Maguire and Santana, have not been from the Spalding guide.
No. 1 down, and here is Wally Backman. Charlie Hudson, in 1983, when they called him up, he won 8 games and was outstanding in the clutch. Pitched a great game in the championship series. Then last year he tailed off, although he did set season high in a lot of things, but not in victory. He struck out 10 in a game against Montreal last year, so he can bring it. Big chopper to the hole and through. Base hit for Backman. So Wally Backman, who came into the game very, very late, has walked and singled twice. And here is Len Dykstra, who was named the most valuable player of what seemed to be the first game of a doubleheader, but it's this game.
Right. And I tell you, with Backman on, these guys are like the Katzenjammer kids. They can make things happen. You got to watch Backman at first. Dykstra certainly can do a lot of things, the best of which is bunt the ball and bunt it for a base hit.
He's had 3 hits, a stolen base, scored a run, knocked into. And hits one into right field, base hit. Backman looks at Harrelson, who puts the brakes on him.
Backman had to stop because the ball was hit right at him as Dykstra pulled that ball, and here we go again.
So Charlie Hudson comes in, and after striking out Santana, gives up singles to Backman and Dykstra, and Tim Tuffle coming up. Tuffle had a big chance in the 7th. With the bases loaded and 1 out, he fouled out. But he did double in 2 in the 8th inning. Now he has a chance here in the 14th. Tim played second base and finished up at third. High slider, ball 1. The Mets have 7 runs on 18 hits. The Phils, who have left 20 men on base, have 7 runs, 13 hits. And he laces it to center. That's a base hit in front of Maddox. Here comes the runner, Backman, to score. Dykstra to third, and the Mets lead 8-7. Who acted somewhat like a manager who didn't want to use Hudson, was eventually forced to use him. And now you see Charlie give up 3 hits and a run. And here will be Keith Hernandez. Hernandez, 0 for 6. Hits it to first. Hayes down to a shortstop. Jelks back to Hayes. Double play, but the run is in. The Mets have hit into 4 double plays, and at the end of 13 and a half, 8-7 Mets. 2 large slices of humble pie served up in Philadelphia. Not only are Hernandez and Strawberry a combined 0 for 13, they have grounded into 3 double plays. They have struck out 4 times. There was a big error committed by Hernandez. But with all of that, the Mets are leading 8-7. And here is Mike Schmidt leading off again, fouled away. We are looking at baseball's first Twilight Night single header of 1986. Mike Schmidt is the only man who started this year, who started in the 1983 World Series for the Phillies. That's the kind of a turnover they've had here. Mike has 3 hits and a walk and 2 RBIs. Ball 2. Of the 14th inning. In there. Eight runs, 19 hits. hits, 1 error for the Mets, 7 runs, 13 hits, and 2 errors for the Phils. And Randy Neiman trying to get a win. Foul ball, out of play. Joe, hey, what's the longest game you ever caught? Do you remember?
No, I really don't. I want to say 14 innings.
14? I'm just looking at Gary Carter and thinking about John Russell.
Oh,
what a day in the ballpark.
I'll tell you, that'll take its toll. Whew. It is a long, long day. Up and down, up and down. All the base on balls kill you.
2-2. Base hit up the middle, and here we go again.
With all those base on balls, it gets like you're playing catch with a guy you don't like.
Well, the tying run is aboard. And here comes Glenn Wilson. Wilson has walked 3 times. And he's checking with Jimmy Davenport. The Phillies have not bunted when you would expect them to bunt at all. And Wilson wants to talk to Davenport. Wilson came up in the 12th inning after Schmidt singled, did not bunt, swung away, hit into a double play. We're coming up to the 5-hour mark. It had really been something. Strike. On deck is the catcher, John Russell. Hit foul down the line, and the count 0-2. Remember, the Phillies, through 13 innings, have left 20 men on base. The Mets have left 16. One and two. Goes to second. This is not your typical 5-hour, 14-inning game.
No, it isn't. Now, what will happen? You got to believe bunt, and they would walk Hayes, and it would be up to Jeltz, and let's go from there.
And Dave Johnson, who just a moment ago was out in front 8-7, now sees that in jeopardy as John Russell comes up, and he gestures, look for the bunt from Russell. Russell has struck out twice, walked and singled, grounded out and popped up, and let's see if Felsky puts the bunt on.
Well, Hernandez will force him to bunt to third if he is.
Ball 1.
Look at Keith. He's charging to the third base side. Should Russell switch and bunt to first, which is a big gamble to take, he could end up a base hit.
Both bullpens are quiet. They're shut down, really, is what it is. It's after hours. 1 ball, no strikes. A bunt. They're going to let it roll. It will go foul.
And that started out in great shape, but apparently that tells you a little bit about the way the infield is sloping. That ball started in pretty good shape and just kept drifting foul. Here's the bunt once again. Now watch how far in fair territory it is. Look at there. That's pretty good shape.
Yeah.
And now he decides to let it roll, and there she goes.
1-1 to count. And John Russell back to the plate. Von Hayes on deck. And, of course, if Russell gets him over, you have the left-hand hitter waiting. And then the switch hitter, Jeltz. This one's a good one. And Carter picks it up late, and the bases are loaded.
He was the only one that could make the play. Neiman could not make that play, and the little bunt has really set it up for the Phillies. Must say, Russell had two pretty good bunts. That first one had rolled foul, and this one, it really is dead. Looks like Neiman's going to get it, and Carter says, I got it, but it's late.
So the Phillies have loaded the bases with nobody out in the bottom of the 14th inning. You have Russell at first, Wilson at second, Schmidt the tying run at third, and the Mets leading 8-7. The Mets had a 4-run 8th. The Phillies had a 3-run 9th. And now let's see about the 14th. The infield is up. Ball 1. Something in this spot. The infield is up.
Yes.
They're leading by a run.
Yes.
Isn't that kind of dangerous on AstroTurf? 2-0. Well, not now. 3-0. In other words, your back is against the wall. If you play your infield back, you got a chance of, you allow the tying run, but you get a double play, maybe.
Yeah.
Infield up, any ground ball goes through, see you later.
Winning run.
Yeah.
Here's the danger spot, 3-0.
Oh, yes. And time called. 3 balls and no strikes. The count to Von Hayes. Davy Johnson has had his infield up, but you can't defend against a walk.
Balloon quicker than a base on balls with the bases loaded. Now the outfield has to come in addition to the infield.
That's only the 14th walk given to the Phils today, along with their 16 hits.
14 walks.
Steve Jeltz, as Neiman's going to miss without any doubt.
That ball is way outside.
So now the infield is up, of course, because the game is tied, and the outfield is shallow. Strike. Jeltz has had a triple, 2 walks, and a single. He has scored a couple. He's had a stolen base. And if he does anything, he'll take the MVP award away from Len Dykstra. Ground ball up the middle, and he's the MVP. As Mike Schmidt scored on the walk, Glenn Wilson scores on the hit, and the Phillies get 2 in the 14th inning and win a rather unbelievable game in 5 hours and 2 minutes. 9 runs, 17 hits, and 2 errors for the Phils. 8 runs, 19 hits, and 1 error for the Mets. Can you believe it?
I can believe it. The only thing I can add to all that's happened is that this game should have been played April 1st. Because it really was April Fool's, but it was exciting to watch all the base on balls. We've had everything in this game. But I tell you,